Namaskar. I herewith welcome all participants to today's webinar. And the topic today is Beyond Dalma and the broader conversation around food. Today we have a speaker who has done years of extensive research on the culinary aspects of our part of the country, and her name is Ms.Sweta Biswal. So today would be going on an exciting journey through our presentation to various known, unknown, and many aspects of our state's cuisine. So I would request my friend Sanjay to give a small introduction about today's speaker. Over to you, Sanjay.
धन्यवाद सुनील समस्त को नमस्कार आज वक्ता होती श्वेता विश्वाल जन्म एवं शिक्षा तंकर राउरकेला से बीपीयूटी इंजीनियरिंग करछंती एबे भुवनेश्वर रहउछंती से भुवनेश्वर बेस्ड स्टार्टअप कंपनी बाइट आईक्यू एनालिटिक्स रो को फाउंडर एवं प्रिंसिपल डाटा एनालिस्ट भाव भी काम करछंती से स्पेशली आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस आउ मशीन लर्निंग क्षेत्र में काम करछंती रंधन और खाद्यपाक संपर्कित तांकर यात्रा आरंभ होता 2010 रे जने ब्लॉगर भाव में जो समय कि सोशल मीडिया नुआ नुआ आरंभ होता निकट में गोटे अति इंटरेस्टिंग बही प्रकाशित होइछि बियॉन्ड डालमा माने डालमार आगु कौन डालमार परे कौन सेटा गोटे ए होलिस्टिक फॉरे इनटू ओडिया फूड्स ओडिया सामग्रिक भाव में ओडिया फूड मध्य को गोटे यात्रा तो तांकर मेन फोकस रही डायटरी चॉइस एवं सस्टेनेबल लाइफस्टाइल उपरे से विश्वास करते स्वास्थ्य पई केवल माने केवल मनुष्यर स्वास्थ्य नहीं समग्र प्लानेटर स्वास्थ्य पई स्थानीय खाद्य द्रव्य और सीजनल खाद्य द्रव्य ये सब उपरे से बेसी गुरुत्व करछथि आसंतु सुनिबा तांकटू से विषय रे डिटेल से कहिबे कौन से बियॉन्ड डालमा बही लिखिछथि और मु श्वेता मैडम को अनुरोध करी से वक्तव्य उपस्थापन करेंगे श्वेता मैडम
Thank you, Sunil sir and Sanjay sir, and thank you for having me here. I'll be making this presentation in English because the book is in English and it will be easier for me to relate to it and explain. So I'll be doing this presentation in English. Okay. So a welcome to everyone who is listening to me, Jai Jagannath. This is my first book, Beyond Dalma, and I'm really thankful to you for having a first-time author like me here in this esteemed group. So today I'll be explaining a little bit about my book, and I'll also talk about the methodology that I use for studying food and why I do it. So when we talk about food, the usual thought process is that we reduce it to the lowest common denomination of what we eat on an everyday basis. Just simple everyday meals. What is the next meal? What is going to be the meal tomorrow? So our thought process around food usually is restricted to this thing. It's a very limited timeline that we are having in mind when we talk about food. But the topic today is a broader conversation about food. What does food tell you? Food tells you a lot if you really try to understand and you try to analyze how our eating habits have evolved. Our eating habits have not just come into picture like in a few years or in a few decades. It's years and it's centuries of conditioning that we have undergone. People, when they come and they settle down in a place, they slowly start including the local flora and fauna into their diet. The climatic conditions of the place is another factor in how they prepare and process their food. So, when you look at the food of a particular region, you will find markers of their ancestors. Probably the ancestors used to live like this maybe a few centuries ago, and some of it has still carried into the modern food and modern eating habits, even though there has been a lot of evolution over the centuries. So this is what Beyond Dalma, and this is what the broader conversation of food around food tells us. So when we actually start looking at food from the lens of trying to understand how food has come to the position where it is right now, we will see a history behind it. And this history may not be as concrete as the iconography you see in temples and all those buildings architecture, but yes, it is there, it is present. So you have to look it through a different angle. You have to analyze it from a different standpoint, and then you understand why food is such an interesting topic if you really know how to study it. I'll just go for the next slide. So, I'd like to say a little bit about the title of my book, Beyond Dalma. There was a lot of question like, why Beyond Dalma? Why the name Dalma? Why not Beyond Pokhala? Why not Beyond Chenapodo? So, I'll say that Dalma is, yes, it's a personal connection. So, it's a book which I have written about Odisha, but definitely as an author, I have a bit of personal connection with my book, and you find some of my stories in this book also. So yes, Dalma is special because I'm from Western Odisha, so I have grown up eating all the food of the Western region, and Dalma was something which I had very occasionally before I got married. So I had some friends who were from Cuttack, and I used to go to their home once in a while, and I used to have dalma. So they used to serve dalma with paratha. I liked the dish, but it was never a part of my life after I got until I got married. So once I got married, dalma became a very big part of my life. And as a working woman, I realized that this is one of the dishes that I could easily prepare, and it was nutritious. It was it saved me a lot of time, and it always tasted good. You make some variation of it and always tasted good. So dalma became a very interesting part of my life after I got married. Also, dalma is, as I say, symbolic of wholesome nutritious everyday food. If you go to the coastal region, a lot of people will be preparing dalma at least 2-3 times in a week. It's changing now. Nowadays, people are moving away from these kind of foods. So that is one of the reasons that I knew that I had to write this book now. So yes, dalma is symbolic of wholesome food, but there are other wholesome like dishes that you will find throughout the state. So we want our food to represent, or to show the diversity when we are showcasing the cuisine of our state at a national level or the international level. You want that diversity to shine through. So we need more regional dishes to come up and we need to showcase them to the uh, country or to the international audiences. So yes, I can say that Beyond Dalma was written with the national and international audience in mind. So it is a book which gives you a comprehensive idea of Odia cuisine. If somebody wants to understand Odia cuisine, then yes, it is the book that they should buy. So I have written it from the perspective of a mother who's trying to teach a child about Odia cuisine. So yes, I have a son, and he knows what we eat throughout the day, throughout the year. He knows on this festival I prepare the dish and all, but he doesn't know why I do it, and he doesn't really understand it. So I have written the book from the perspective of a mother. So yes, at any point of time in his life, if he really feels the need to go back and understand, okay, why my mother used to prepare this dishes at any point, like this festival or this season, then he can refer to the book, and it's going to be there for him, and it's going to be there for everybody. So yes, it is. I have written this with a very broad audience in mind. So, and even for Odia people who eat the regional food every day, who eat Odia food every day, but they don't know, they have never made the effort to go and understand how our eating habits have shaped up the way they are today. So this is the kind of book they should be reading once. It's about creating awareness also, not just showcasing a list of recipes to the world. It's also about creating a level of awareness. Now, as Sir explained, I am a data analyst. So, my job also involves breaking down a problem into small chunks that can be solved independently and then putting them together to give a master plan, the master solution, you can say. So, when I look at food, I use the same methodology and these few pointers that you see on the screen, these are some of the points that I use to analyze food. So first is caste. Nowadays we live in a society that is almost casteless, and which is a very good thing. We are moving beyond the shackles of caste, and caste isn't a very good thing. If you read about it in the caste system, our history, it isn't a very good thing. There were some salient parts of it, but yes, it was not good for the majority of the people. So we are moving towards a casteless society, and yes, it's a good thing. But caste has always been a major factor when it comes to the food that people eat. So, how does caste affect the food dietary choices? The nature of the work undertaken. Do people work in the fields or do they travel? If they travel, they need to carry imperishable food items. So if you see the Gujaratis, for example, and I'm sorry, I just came, I'm taking the examples of the Gujaratis. I'll come to the Odia part of it. So a lot of food items that they have are this imperishable theplas and kakras and all, which they just carry with them. So have you ever wondered why they have so many imperishable food items? Okay, I agree that as Odias we like things fresh, but one of the reasons is that they are a business community and they need to travel a lot. So they need imperishable food items. Okay. The next thing that we can understand from caste is the involvement of the women. If women are involved in the work, they spend less time in the kitchen. So that also shapes up the cuisine. What kind of Next point is what kind of influences the region has gone through. What were the military conquest over that region? Any enemy had conquered that region and they were dominating the place, the region for some period of time. Then their influences, did it seep into the culture? What were the religious campaigns that swept through the region? Was it the Shaktism or Shaivism or Vaishnavism? Then what kind of trade relations they had and with whom they had those trade relations. Then we have our regional things like the neighboring areas. Obviously we get influenced by our neighbors, and even in today's world we get influenced by our neighbors. In that time also people used to excuse me, keep getting influenced by the neighbors. And when you talk about region, the locally available ingredients, they're like very they shape up the diet, right? We eat a chunk of our diet is used to be sourced locally from local ingredients. In those days, now the markets have opened up and we see a lot of food stuff coming from outside, but in those days, locally available ingredients were the mainstay of the diet. So that influenced the diet in a major way. Seasons. Okay, now 5 seasons is the final one. It's how severe or mild is the summer or winter, how's the terrain during monsoon, which ingredients were available during different seasons, what and the changing needs of the body. So do the people preserve ingredients? Seasons, obviously, the climate of the region, as I mentioned, that shapes up the cuisine because that often determines how spicy the food should be or how fatty the food should be. If you live in a relatively warmer area, you don't need a lot of fat, but if you live in a cold area, you need a lot of fat in your food. So if you live in a region where fresh ingredients are not available throughout the major part of the year, then you do a lot of pickling and sun drying preserving the ingredients in some way or the other. But if you live in a region where food is available in some form or the other, then you don't preserve them a lot. There, of course, you forage a lot if there's a lean period where your agricultural produces come down. You do a lot of foraging, but you don't do that much preserving if food is still available. Now, yeah. So the focus of my book or Beyond Dalma is the seasonal aspect of food. So during the change of season, our body reacts differently. So we need to change our diet. If you look through Ayurvedic texts, and there are so many of them, and a lot of them have conflicting information also. But in general, if you have some idea about Ayurveda, then you know that the body has different needs throughout the year, and we need to season the body, we need to cleanse the body. So all these things we need to do in order to stay in good health. So yes, the seasonal aspect of food is very important, and that's why it has the dominant theme of my book. But as you see, there's a certain overlap between these different aspects of food or these perspectives of food. Yes, there will be some overlap because regions, seasons, sometimes all these things, there are something like they will overlap over each other, like locally available ingredients during a particular season. So all these things, the caste is also like in a particular region, some particular communities is dominant. So all those things will uh, be interrelated to each other. So we'll go through each of these points in a little more detail. Regional influences on food, cultural ties with the neighboring areas. So if you divide the state broadly into regions, I feel that Odisha will come like we have a coastal belt, we have a northern part, we have a western part, a southern, and uh, somewhere we have a tribal belt. So this tribal belt is something which ranges from the northern part to the southern part. Yes, we have it's not connected. It's not one single belt. It's disconnected, but we have the pockets, the tribal areas in all these regions, and they have a very unique cuisine of their own, which is like it is not much processed. It is unprocessed. Then it is it draws a lot from the forest. If foraged ingredients are there, very unique dishes are there in the tribal belts. So it has a unique identity of its own. The coastal regions has a rich cuisine that is developed under the patronage of different rulers. So we know the temple cuisine. When we talk about temple cuisine, the first thing that comes into our mind is the Jagannath temple. So it has the Chappan Bhog, you can say. It has a very rich culinary history if you talk about it. There are if you look at it, it has been under the patronage of different dynasties in the history, like throughout history, and something or the other has been added to the food like throughout this period of time, and it has got enriched. So there's been a lot of patronage to different kinds of pita which you find. So all these things have slowly been added into this cuisine, and it has developed into something which is very unique. You don't have this kind of rich cuisine anywhere else in India. Of course, there is the cuisine, our Vrindavan and all those things. It is rich. You have this kind of like a rich cuisine, but nothing which is as diverse and as lively as what we have in the in our Jagannatha. So it is something which needs a book of its own, and I really hope somebody will write about it, because it's very diverse. It has got a lot of things that one can explore, and when we talk about this particular cuisine. Okay, So the temple, so what I'm saying is, when I talk about the temple, so temple is the hub of the life in these parts, and the cuisine is very much inspired by it. So if you see in the regions which are near the temple, you find this food, you find a lot of nice food which is prepared without the use of onion and garlic. So that Vaishnav culture which has come in, so that it has been a dominant influence in that region, and you don't find that kind of food without onion and garlic in any other part of the state. So even without the use of onion and garlic, they have a very nice cuisine of its own. It's quite different from the cuisine of the rest of the state. The northern parts of the state also share the dishes and names with Bengal, so which is very normal. So you live with your neighbors, you exchange ideas with them, you exchange ingredients with them. There will be a shared flora and fauna. So yes, there are dishes and names which are common between these northern parts of Odisha and our neighbors West Bengal. Now, Western parts, they share a bunch of ingredients and somewhat similar dishes with neighboring Jharkhand and Chhattisgarh. So these are the hilly tracts with a lot of jungles and all, and there are a lot of tribals in this region. So the food has developed in a different way over here. So the neighboring Chhattisgarh and Jharkhand in these regions, you find the same kind of dishes, similar dishes you will find, because earlier it was not like a state like you can say the boundaries that we see right now. Those boundaries were not there. It was a very different kind of boundary. It was much bigger Odisha or Kalinga, you can say. So yes, you find this kind of similarities. The southern part of the state have dishes whose flavor profile is closer to the neighboring Andhra rather than other parts of Odisha. So again, the neighbors are coming in, their influence is seeping in. So you cannot say that all dishes are inspired. It's just like when people live in close quarter with each other, ideas are exchanged and you find similarities. Okay. So let's go to the next slide. Okay, now this are some. This let us talk about some variations which are in a dish, which is introduced due to the local ingredients. Now, for this, I just wanted to take the example of a Mandapitha, because Mandapitha is something which we make throughout the state. Every part of the state you go, you find Mandapitha, and Mandapitha is like it's prepared in a lot of our occasions. If you see, but the same Manda Pitha is prepared differently in this different parts of the state. So if you talk about the coastal regions, you have coconut stuffing, you have the hichena stuffing, and the other good the moong dal. The whole moong dal is boiled and mashed, and that is also used as a stuffing. Black lentil stuffing and flaxseed stuffing also. So these are the kind of stuffings you find mostly in the coastal regions, because this is what they produce. That this is what is grown mostly in this region. So this is what you find over there. The dahi chena is obviously unique to the coastal region, so it makes its way into this pita. If you go to the western parts like Sundargarh, you will find a lot of groundnut and sesame being grown. So the stuffing now becomes a mixture of sesame and groundnuts, which is layered with jaggery. So that mixture becomes the stuffing of Mandapitha in Sundargarh, the western part of the state. If you go to Angul and Talcher, which is somewhere in the middle, you find a lot of this horse gram being grown, and we have a variant of the monda which is very nicely made over in this part of the state, and that has got the black there's a horse gram stuffing, and it's actually very nice. It's like one of my favorites also. It's a very nicely made version, and it's one of my favorite, I can say, among all the versions. It's one of my favorite kind of manda pita. Now, if you go to the Sonpur and Sambalpur, again it's Western Odisha, but here the stuffing changes. The outer covering. Sorry, there's a typo in the slide. It's not outer stuffing, it's the outer covering. It is made from this yellow lentil or moong dal, which grows abundantly in this region. Now, if moong dal is available in so much quantity, then they go ahead and make the outer stuffing with the moong dal itself. We know that moong dal is more expensive compared to rice. So I there are two things we can understand from these kind of variation, that yes, they grow a lot of moong dal, otherwise they will not be afford to make the outer covering of the pitha with the moong dal. And it also points to a certain affluence during a period of history. So yes, you grow this, and you are also rich enough to be able to afford to make the outer covering with this kind of ingredient, which we generally uses in a smaller quantity. Generally we use lentils in a smaller quantity. So if you are able to afford lentils in bigger quantity, larger quantity, it generally points to an affluence, I would say. For example, if you know about, there are a lot of pithas in Odisha where they substitute the bidi or the black lentil with parboiled rice, because while biri is used to make the pitha lighter, parboiled rice also serves in the same way, but it is much cheaper as compared to the black lentil or biri. So when the cost is a concern, is a factor which is like important to the people, they go ahead and for a cheaper ingredient. But in this case we see they're making the stuffing with a ingredient which is quite expensive. So yes, it would definitely be like lot of moong dal getting produced over here. And also they were affluent enough to use it and not sell it, right? If you have something in excess, normally you sell it and make some money out. But if you're affluent enough, you go ahead and use it for your personal use. Now, if you talk about the Mandapitha, then Mandapitha obviously you will find the mentions in most of the Odia literature, as in the different katha that we read during our vratas and osa. If you go through the book, then you will these books, then you will find mentions of these different kinds of pitha that were being made at that point of time. So this literature serves as a reference point. It's a documentation that okay, this dish was being made at that point of time. We may not have the proper recipe, but we still have some kind of documentation that this dish was being made at that point of time, and maybe by which community it was made. We'll also find these kind of details in the our these stories, the Brata Kathas and the Osa Kathas. Now, in the Sudarsa Brato, if you see, there is a mention of manda with with dasapur, or 10 types of 10 ingredients which are used for the stuffing. So this 10 ingredients, like I think I remember coconut. Then there is banana. There is this chena. I think there is jaggery or sarkara. So there are a lot. This kind of many ingredients used to be are were used to make a stuffing for the mandapitha at some point of time. This is a documentation that we have. Our mandapitha that we make currently is much more what you can say, it's doesn't use that many ingredients. It's much more frugal. But at that point of time, they used to prepare mandapitha with like so many ingredients. That's actually fascinating. Okay. So caste. So caste is a major factor in determining the menu. So I'm just saying sorry to everyone who feels who might get offended by the mention of caste, but I'm doing it from an academic standpoint. I am not going to go after any caste, because I also believe in equality. But caste is one of the pointers that we use to study the food habits, how the food habits have developed. So I have to mention caste in this context. So the major castes, I have mentioned the major castes. There's Brahmins. So the Brahmins, they had access to fine rice, dairy products, coconut, and ghee. So especially those Brahmins who got land grants from the kings or the rich landholders or zamindars, for maintaining those temples and all, they had access to fine ingredients, dairy products, coconut, ghee, all the nice ingredients they had to prepare that rich food. So the women also, they were under more restriction as compared to the women, like the farmers and all. So they had more time, they could spend more time on cooking, so they could hone their skills more in the kitchen. So you find relatively finer dishes with more dairy and the fine rice in this in the Brahmin kitchen. So yes, but at the same time, they had restrictions. Brahmins usually have a lot of restrictions on which ingredients they can use and they cannot use, in especially in those days. So the experimentation was limited to a certain number of ingredients, relatively fewer ingredients. Now coming to the corona. Now this is one of the most fascinating cuisine you will come across. If you have some corona friends, you can obviously ask them. They really like to eat well, because they were relatively well off in history, and they were well traveled and they were well read. So they had this open mindset when it comes to food. They were open to experimentation and they had the means, the resources to cook those dishes. So if you look at the food that was prepared in corona households, it was relatively more complex, more rich as compared to any other community or any other caste in Odisha. Excuse me. So yes, they did not have that many limitations. So they had this section of non-veg dishes which they prepared, and I think they have a very wide range of non-vegetarian dishes that they prepare, and they often used to employ Brahmin cooks. So the Brahmin cooks are generally considered to be like very good, very skilled with the culinary prowesses, like very accepted accepted or known throughout the world. So they used to hire these cooks and they had the resources. So their cuisine has developed in a very vivid manner, you can say. Now coming to the chosa or the farmers, they had relatively less in terms of resources. The women had to contribute to agriculture. If you go to any village which has a dominant farming community, you can see that except for the few land holders, the zamindar kind of families or the gauntia families, as we say, uh, apart from them, all those people, the women folk, they had to go to the kitchen. Sorry, they had to go to the field, or they had to cook and feed the laborers who were engaged in the field. So they had to cook in bulk, and when you cook in bulk for so many people, and you are also expected to contribute on the field or in other ways, then you don't have the time to hone your skills in the kitchen. So you can see that, and they needed to cook. The volume of the food used to be carbs. So as you need a lot of energy to work in the fields, you need to make the dishes so that it helps you to consume those carbs. So pungent foods, the dishes are relatively pungent. If you see some of the pago which they prepare, the pago with that ambulo and the dried fish and all, they're quite pungent in nature. But you have a limited quantity of that, and you can eat a big bowl of pakhala with it, or or maybe a mound of rice you can have with some kind of dal, like biri dal, which you prepare with some kind of that pago, pungent pago, chilies, garlic and all. You put it together, it becomes like it helps you to push down that carbs. You cannot eat a lot of rice if you have something very fine tasting food with it. So more the pungent food, it what you call it, triggers your salivation. You have more saliva in your mouth, and it becomes easy to eat a lot of volume of carbohydrates like rice. Usually they used to have rice. Rice used to be the dominant food for most of this farming communities. Okay, so, and also so that is what less time to cook in more quantity, limited resources. So the menu is limited to 2 to 3 dishes apart from the rice, which form the core. Now, talking about the next community, the Gouda community or the cowherds who used to keep the cows and all. So there is a usage of milk in their everyday dishes. If you just look at it, there's a most of the dishes they will be using milk in some form of the other. Sometimes it will be little milk going on. Sometimes it is the buttermilk which is going on, going into it. Sometimes a little ghee will go into it, ghee and the curd, something of that sort, because they produce a lot of milk. Obviously, they sell it and earn money by it, but still, some of it makes its way into their everyday dishes. So the women in this community, earlier they used to go and sell the curd. They used to sell milk. So we have that Manika Patna story. So we know that women in those days they go and they used to sell this milk products. So they were busy and they used to take care of the animals also. So women were really engaged in the work. So the dish this is used to be minimal. It's not so much evolved like the ones we have in the Brahmins or the Karana caste. Now, one of the interesting regions which just came to my notice when I was doing my research, like Korahandi, if you think of it, it has we have this image that it belongs to the KBK, the backward districts. For a long time, we had that mindset. Okay, it's uh, like a very backward district. But if you go and talk to people from the literally better households, you see a lot of milk and milk products going into the traditional recipes or everyday recipes. So you know that at some point of time, this region was not so backward. It used to be a region that used to produce a lot of milk, and it was literally well off. So this is how you can use the food of the region to extrapolate and go back in time and understand how the people of that region used to live at a certain point of time. So again, back at the tribals. So tribal dishes, minimal cooking. The lifestyle of the tribals, if you see, it's a very difficult lifestyle. They live in a difficult terrain. They don't have access to the most fertile lands. If you see, it's hilly regions, mostly rocky regions. They will be living, or they cut the forest, jhum cultivation, or they practice that. So burn and slash and burn, that kind of a thing. So the lifestyle is such that they have to be involved in a lot of manual work. So again they don't have that much time to do a lot of cooking. So you can see a lot of semi liquid gruel kind of things going into their diet. Lot of forest produce millets which are easy to grow, because when the soil is not so fertile, rice won't give you good results. You will not be able to feed the family for the entire year. So millets is their savior. They do grow rice, but they do grow a lot of tubers and they forage the tubers and maize also. If you see a lot of tribals in Odisha, they derive a portion of their diet or nutrients from maize, especially during the lean season. The lean season, the Bhadraba Ashwina time is actually a lean season for them, because the rice of the previous year's harvest or the millets are like all over, and the newly harvested rice and millets, they have not come in. So during this period, maize plays a crucial role. It becomes the mainstay of the diet along with the tubers or the yam which they forage from the forest. Okay, so tribals obviously they love the again pungent foods. They love the greens. So that is how the tribal food is like. The dishes are like. Okay, so yes, coming back to this need to travel and carry imperishable foods, we do have foods like chatua, chuda, muri, udumo, ukuda, mua. then some kinds of goja we have, then we have the arisa pita. So these kind of foods were probably used by the travelers. We know that they were used by the travelers, obviously, at some point in history. So we also have a history of people. Even if we don't know about the Boita Bandana festival, or the trade, the sadhavas, if you just think about those, just say for a person who's not aware of those things, but you look at these kind of foods and you realize that, okay, maybe these people had a history of traveling for some region, like for trade or something. So they have these kind of imperishable things in their diet. These are pointers which you can say, and these kind of pointers are there in the cuisine of every region. If you go through the cuisine of any region, you pick it up and you try to dissect it point by point using these kind of points which I have shared, the caste, region, season, and all those influences, then you will come across these things. Military, religious, and trade influences. Again, for a region, the food is definitely influenced by these factors. What is the exchange of ideas, techniques, and ingredients? What were the dominant powers which forced the local community to grow a crop for their farmers, like culinary preference, or for any trade reasons? For example, if you know how poppy became such a um, like major ingredient in the lives of the people from of Bengal and northern Odisha. So there was a period when the Britishers were forcing them to grow poppy. So they did not have access to enough vegetables. So they had to resort to the poppy because they would what is it that I forgot the name of the drug which they get from poppy. Sorry, I just forgot the name. It just slipped out of my mind. So after you extract that,
Posta,
the
posta.
poppy is related. Posto, huh? Posto. No, no, I just forgot the name of the drug that you get from poppy. I forgot the name actually. That's a
Opium,
drug.
opium, opium.
Opium. Sorry. Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you. Opium. So after you extract the opium from the poppy is fine for culinary purpose consumption. It is fine, but still, if you have noticed that poppy tends to make you little sleepy. So if small children, they are having problems in sleeping, not very small like babies or infants, but they are given a little amount of poppy, or people like who you want to calm down for some reason, you give them a little bit of poppy so that they become that slight sedation is there, so they become calm. So yes, that opium is there. So the Britishers actually made people, force the farmers of that region to grow poppy, and therefore they became a part of their diet because they did not have access to enough vegetables. So this is a kind of influence which we see when some power from outside comes, and it takes control and makes the local community grow some crop. So you kind of see changes coming into the diet of the local community. Now next, one of the more other region like factors is the religious concerns. Like sometimes because of religious reason, some of the ingredients will be shunned, others will get adopted in its place, like garlic. Some communities they shun garlic, but they use acetafoetida, that hing they use, hingu. They use it instead of garlic for dal and all. You can see in the Jagannath temple that they use a lot of acetafoetida or hing. It's not an ingredient which is native to Odisha, but still it finds its usage. So garlic at some point has been phased out, and this has come in. So this is how things just keep changing throughout history. Ingredients replace each other. So acetafoetida is a garlic. Some of the chemicals in them are same, so it is like you can say a substitute for garlic. Trade relationship, introducing exotic ingredients on the menu of the rich and powerful. So obviously when there is trade, new ingredients will come in. And we had a big like very strong maritime trade history. We have it. I mean, it's documented. it's well documented. What we the kind of foods that came in is not documented that much, but we know that we had a very strong trade history, maritime trade history. So one of the things which probably came in that during that period was the nutmeg, because nutmeg, if you see the history of nutmeg, it was grown in far off Bandä Islands of Indonesia, and the Britishers and the Dutch actually had a very uh, big face off over this ingredient. But nutmeg has been there in the it's been used in temples in the ancient times. It was used in different at homas and offerings and all. So when it comes into the Puri temple, probably it has come during the early 10th or 11th century, probably through the trade routes of the Sadhavas. That is one of the theories how it came into the like in list of ingredients that are used in the Puri temple. That's probably, I'm saying, probably one of the theories, because none of these theories are exact. You find lot of variations, discrepancies in these theories. So it's like you read one book and you form a theory, but if you read 10 books, you mix, you just find out, try to understand which one is good and bad. So this is one of the theories that I came across, that it came through via the Sadhavas. Okay. So I think I'm done with the methodology that I used for studying food. So next I'll be telling something about my book. So if anyone has any questions, and we can take a few questions at this point of time before I move on to my telling more about my book. So
Yes, 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 yes. If anybody wishes to ask any question or make any comment at this point of time, kindly raise your hand, or you can unmute yourself and then put your comment. So I've already allowed, so anyone can.
ମୋର ଗୋଟେ question
କୁହନ୍ତୁ ଆଜ୍ଞା, କୁହନ୍ତୁ। ହ୍ୟାଲୋ।
ହଁ ମୋର क्वेश्चन ମୁଁ ସ୍ୱେତାକୁ ପଚାରିଥିଲି, ମାନେ ମାନେ ଡାଲମା being ଓଡ଼ିଆ, ଡାଲମା ଇଜ आवर ମାନେ କନସେସନାଲ ଫୁଡ। जो ଡାଲମାର ଆଜିକାଲି जो ଭେରିଏସନ ହଉଛି, ଲାଇକ୍ ହବିଷ ଡାଲମା, ମୁଁ ସ୍ୱେତାକୁ ପଚାରିଥିଲି 2-3 ଦିନ ତଳେ ପଚାରିଥିଲି, ଗୋଟେ क्वेश्चन ପଚାରିଥିଲି ଯେ why ହଳଦୀ is not used in ହବିଷ ଡାଲମା, and she answered me, ମାନେ ବହୁତ ବଢିଆ ଆନ୍ସର ଦେଇଥିଲା, ଯୋଉଟା କି ରିଲେଟେଡ ଟୁ ଶିବ, जोटा मु जानी नथिली। बहुत लोग कहले जे बिकॉज ऑफ माने इट इज एसोसिएटेड विथ हमर जो विधवा मानक संगे हे थाए, तेणु से माने ये करंती नहीं, नो कलर इज अलाउड, बट शी गेव मी द एंगल ऑफ यू नो हळदी इज नॉट ऑफर्ड टू शिव, सो दैट वाज ये। किंतु ये सत्ता मोर क्वेश्चन होचे, माने आजि काली गोटे डालमा करछोंती, कोन मांस डालमा, इज दैट ट्रू डालमा और जस्ट वेरिएशन?
श्वेता मैडम, आपण अनम्यूट करके, आपण म्यूट अछंती, अनम्यूट करके प्रश्न उत्तर दियंतु।
श्वेता वीडियो भी ऑफ अच्छी
नहीं मो
Koruchi, I'm just trying to switch on the video. ମୋ ଭିଡ଼ିଓଟା ଆପଣ ଅଫ୍ ରଖିଛନ୍ତି? It's okay, I think I can answer.
No, I didn't make it off. I thought आपण बोधे
नहीं, it's okay. हाँ, I will answer this question. हाँ sir, thank you for asking this question. ଆପଣ ଯୋଉଟା କହୁଛନ୍ତି କି ଆଜିକାଲି ମାଛ ଡାଲମା ହଉଛି କି ମଟନ ଡାଲମା ହଉଛି, ଏଇ ସବୁ ଜିନିଷ, these are, you cannot, I mean we cannot say that it is an authentic dish or non-authentic dish. Sir, क्योंकि मैं जितना history research करूଥିଲି, the dalma, the way we prepare dalma, we associated dalma with temples. But the way dalma is prepared, गोटे हांडी रे सब जिंस पकेकी करूछंती without पघारिकी, it is also like a dish which the tribals prepare. Actually अपन जानते गोटे dish अछि राब बोली कहंती tribals माने. So it is quite similar to the preparation. से माने भी vegetables हैला कखारु, तो बेसी कखारु पकांती, काहे कि tribals माने तो जते माने vegetables grow करंती, कखारु तांका पे गोटे prominent vegetable। आउ डाली कखारु ए सब जिंस पके कि से माने ताको न घांटी की ताको घोड़े की माने से घोड़े की से हे जाय, आ तापर त माने बघारंती नै। So if you say Dalma is temple food, I agree Dalma is temple food, but it has some similarities with tribal cuisine also. ଆମ ଜଗନ୍ନାଥ ଠାକୁର ଯିଏ ସିଏ ଜଣେ ଟ୍ରାଇବାଲ ଠାକୁର, ମାନେ ଆପଣ ଯୋଉ କହିବେ ଯୋଉ ଶବର ମାନେ ତାଙ୍କୁ ପୂଜା କରୁଥିଲେ, so that is also part of our history. So we have to accept that these kind of things are natural. ଆଉ ତାଙ୍କୁ ଯୋଉ ଡାଲମା ନା ଆଦିବାସୀଙ୍କ ଡାଲମା ଯୋଉ ଟ୍ରାଇବାଲ ଡାଲମାରେ ସେମାନେ ସୁଖ ବି ପକାନ୍ତି। And ଯୋଉ ମାଛ ଡାଲମା ହେଲା ଆପଣ କହିଲେ ଯୋଉଟା, it may be a later day variation, but it has come in a lot of time ago. It's not recent. ମୁଁ ଯାହା ଶୁଣିଛି ମାନେ ଆମର ଶାଶୁଘର ଲୋକଙ୍କଠୁ, so ଯେତେବେଳେ କ'ଣ ହଉଥିଲା ନା, when people used to earlier people used to be poor, ଏବେ ତ ମାନେ ଆମର ଗଭର୍ଣ୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ ଯାହା ହଉ ଲୋକଙ୍କୁ ଖାଇବା ପିଇବା ପାଇଁ ଦେଇ ଦଉଛି, ବହୁତ ଭଲରେ ଅଛନ୍ତି ଲୋକ, but at some point of time people used to be poor. So ଗୋଟେ ଯେମିତି ଭଲ ଜିନିଷ ଗୋଟେ ଆସିଲା ଘରକୁ, ଟିକେ ମାଛ ଆସିଲା କି ଟିକେ ମାଂସଟେ ଆସିଲା, ସେମାନେ କ'ଣ କରନ୍ତି ଡାଲମାରେ ପକେଇ ଦିଅନ୍ତି, so that everyone gets a share of it. ନହେଲେ ତ ଆମ there are not enough pieces to divide with everyone. So that is one of the ways these kind of variations must have evolved. ଏଇଟା ହେଲା ମୋ theory ଆଉ ମୋ understanding, ମୁଁ ଯାହା ଜାଣିଛି ଯେତିକି ପଢିଛି, this is my understanding, sir.
Anyone else, if you wish to ask any question or make any point, kindly unmute yourself and then make your point.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Sweta, you should be actually able to start your video.
I don't know, yeah, that is a problem.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I'm not sure what is it,
No,
but
actually-
I'm unable to start my video.
Uh,
If there are any questions, we'll take the questions. Otherwise, I'll just continue with my book. Like I'll describe more about my book.
स्वतः ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ क्वेश्चन ଅଛି, ଏ जो
हाँ,
टेंपल
sir.
फूड, हां टेंपल फूड ऑफ ओडिशा रे जो ଅଛି ଆମର जो ମାଛ ଭୋଗ ହଉଛି, କେତେଟା ଟେମ୍ପଲ ରେ ମାଛ ଭୋଗ ହଉଛି, କେତେଟା ଜାଗାରେ ଶୁଖୁଆ ଭୋଗ ହଉଛି, so can you please enlighten us on that?
Oh, okay, sir. I'll try my best. Sir, ଆପଣ ଯୋଉ ଦେଖୁଛନ୍ତି ବହୁତ ଜାଗାରେ ଯୋଉ ମାଛ ଭୋଗ ହେଲା କି ଶୁଖୁଆ ଭୋଗ ହେଲା, ଆପଣ ଦେଖିବେ କି ଜାଗାରେ ଯୋଉ ଗଡେସ୍ ମାନେ ଯୋଉଠି ମାଛ କି ଶୁଖୁଆ ହଉଛି, they are the goddesses of the fisherman community. ସେମାନେ ଯୋଉ କେଉଟ କହନ୍ତି ନା, ସେ କେଉଟ ଇଏକୁ ବିଲଙ୍ଗ କରନ୍ତି. So if that is the source of your livelihood, ଆପଣ ସେଇ ଜିନିଷ ଠାକୁରକୁ ଦିଅନ୍ତି। ଯେମିତି ଆମେ ନୂଆଖାଇ କଲୁ, ଆମେ ଚାଷୀ ଲୋକ, ଆମେ ଧାନ ଇ କଲୁ, ତ ଆମେ ଆମ ଯେତେବେଳେ ଧାନଟା ଅମଳ କଲୁ ତ ଆଗେ ଠାକୁରଙ୍କୁ ଆମେ ଦଉଛୁ। So for them the goddess is protecting them when they go out and to fish in the sea. କୁଆଡେ ସେମାନେ ଯାଉଛନ୍ତି, ତାଙ୍କ ଲାଇଭଲିହୁଡ ତ ଆଉ କିଛି ସୋର୍ସ ନାହିଁ, ସେମାନେ ତ ମାଛ ଇଏ କରି ଧରୁଛନ୍ତି, ତ ସେଇ ଜିନିଷ ସେ ଠାକୁରଙ୍କୁ ଅଫର କଲେ। ଆଉ ଏଇ ଯୋଉ ମାଛ ହେଲା କି ଶୁଖୁଆ ହେଲା, ଯୋଉଟା ଆମର ଶକ୍ତି ୱାର୍ସିପ ଇଏରେ ଅଛି, ତାଙ୍କର ମାନେ ଯୋଉ ବାରଣ ଯୋଉ ଆମେ ଯୋଉ କହୁଛୁ ନା, ସେଇଟା ଏତେ ବାରଣ ନଥାଏ। ଯେ ଆମର ମାନେ ଯୋଉ ୱେଷ୍ଟର୍ଣ୍ଣ ଓଡିଶାରେ ଆପଣ ଯିବେ ଆମ ଠାକୁରାଣୀ ମାନଙ୍କର, ନାଉ ଡେଜ୍ ଗୋଟେ ହିନ୍ଦୁଇଜମର ଏଫେକ୍ଟ ବହୁତ ଆସିଯାଇଛି। ଯଦି ଆପଣ ବହୁତ ଗାଁ ଗହଳିରେ ଯିବେ ଠାକୁରାଣୀ ମାନଙ୍କୁ, ଯୋଉ ବଳି ପ୍ରଥା ଦିଆ ହଉଛି, sorry, let me see if I can start my video. I'm still not able to start, I guess. Okay, sorry, it's okay. I think I'll continue with that answer. So जो बड़ी प्रथा दिया होची ठाकुरଙ୍କୁ माने ठाकुराणीଙ୍କୁ ଆମେ माने ଗୋଟେ ଜାଗାରେ ଆମେ ଦେଖିବେ कि जो बलि करा हुए सी रक्तरे तांको गाधा भी हुए। तो these goddesses ना जो माने हमर अछंती tribal goddesses, they are like they have continued from a very early age. हमर हिंदुइज्म आगुरु जो थिले से गॉडेसेस रही आछंती। तो हमर जोटे कोटे कांसेप्ट अछि हम देखिबे रिलीजन रे कि a life for a life, आपण सुनिथिबे जदी ए जिंसटा माने कि गोटे जिंस को आपण पाया पई कि गोटे जिंस को सैक्रिफाइस करचंती। So you used to kill another animal in order to save your family or you to bring good fortune to your family. गोटे भलो हार्वेस्ट दरकार आपण को, आपण गोटे जंतु को माने सैक्रिफाइस कर देले सेति पई कि, तो जो माने सैक्रिफाइस जोटा बलि प्रथाटा से ये स्टार्ट हेछि। आ आपण जो कहउचंती माछ और सुखुआटा, ଏଇଟାରେ ଆମର କେଉଟ କମ୍ୟୁନିଟି ର ଗଡେସ୍ ରହିଛନ୍ତି ସେ ଗୋଟେ ସମୟରେ, ସେଥିପାଇଁ କି ତାଙ୍କର ଯୋଉ ମେନ୍ ଜିନିଷଟା ସେମାନେ ତାଙ୍କ ଲାଇଭଲିହୁଡ୍ ର ପାର୍ଟ ସେଇଟାକୁ ସେମାନେ ତାଙ୍କର ନିଜ ଗଡେସ୍ ନିଜ ଠାକୁରଙ୍କୁ ଅଫର କରନ୍ତି। That is what I
ମ୍ୟାଡାମ
have to say.
ନମସ୍କାର। ମ୍ୟାଡାମ
ହଁ
ନମସ୍କାର।
sir, ନମସ୍କାର।
ମୁଁ ଏଠି ଶ୍ରୀକାକୁଲମ ଜିଲ୍ଲାରୁ କହୁଛି।
ହଁ ହଁ
ମୁଁ ଆମେ ହେଲେ କରଣ ପଟ୍ଟନାୟକ।
ଓକେ ହଁ ହଁ
ଆମର ଗୋଟେ ଓଷା ଥାଏ, ଷଠି ଓଷା।
ହୁଁ
ମାନେ ଗଣେଶ ପୂଜାର 2 ଦିନ ପରେ ଷଠି ଓଷା
ହଁ
ପିଲାମାନଙ୍କ
ହଁ
ପାଇଁ
ସାର୍
କରାଯାଏ।
ହଁ ହଁ
ସେଠି
ହଁ
ଆମର ପୂଜା ବେଳେ ମାଛ ଆମ୍ବିଳା ଦିଆଯାଏ।
ହଁ ସାର୍
ମାଛ ଆମ୍ବିଳା ପୂଜା କରାଯାଏ। ମାନେ
ହୁଁ
ଆପଣ ଯୋଉ କହୁଛନ୍ତି କେଉଟ ସମ୍ପ୍ରଦାୟରେ ସୀମିତ, ସେଇଟା ନୁହଁ। ଆମ
ନାଇଁ ହଁ
କରଣ
ସେମିତି ନୁହଁ, ସେଇଟା ଗୋଟେ ମାନେ ବହୁତ ଜାଗାରେ ଦେଖିବେ ସେ ଲିଙ୍କଟା ଅଛି, ସେ ଲିଙ୍କଟା ଅଛି। ଆମେ ଷଠି ଠାକୁରାଣୀକୁ ତ ଆମେ ଯାହାହେଲେ ବି ମାଛ ଦଉ। ଷଠି ଠାକୁରାଣୀ ଆପଣ ଦେଖିବେ ଯୋଉଠି ବି ହେଲେ ଷଠି ଠାକୁରାଣୀଙ୍କ ପୂଜାରେ ମାଛଟି ଲାଗେ।
ମାଛଟା ଲାଗେ। ସେଟା
ହଁ
କେଉଟ ନୁହନ୍ତି, ମାନେ ବିଭିନ୍ନ
ନା ନା ନା
ଜାତିର
ନା
ପୂଜା କରନ୍ତି।
ହଁ ହଁ ହଁ
ମାଛ
ବିଭିନ୍ନ
ଲାଗେ।
ଜାତିର। ଆମ ଘରେ ବି ଷଠିଙ୍କ ଯେତେବେଳେ ପୂଜା ହୁଏ, ସେ ଛୁଆଟେ ଜନ୍ମ ହୁଏ,
ହୁଁ
6 ଦିନ ପରେ ଆମେ ଷଠି ପୂଜା ଯୋଉ କରୁ ମାଛଟେ ଲଗାଉ। ମାଛଟେ ଲାଗିବାଟା ଆମର ଯୋଉ ଦେବୀ ମାନଙ୍କୁ ସେଇଟା ଗୋଟେ ଅଛି, ଆମର ପ୍ରଥା ରହି ଆସିଛି କି ଦେବୀ ମାନଙ୍କୁ ମାଛଟା ଲାଗେ। କିନ୍ତୁ ଗୋଟେ ଏଇ ଯୋଉ ଫିଶର କମ୍ୟୁନିଟି ସାଙ୍ଗରେ ଲିଙ୍କଟା ବି ଆପଣ ଦେଖିବେ କେତେଟା ଟେମ୍ପଲରେ ଆପଣ ପାଇବେ। ସବୁ ଜାଗାରେ ତ ପାଇବେ ନାହିଁ, କିନ୍ତୁ କେତେଟା ଟେମ୍ପଲ ଯୋଉ କଟକରେ ଚଣ୍ଡୀ ମାଙ୍କ ପାଖରେ ଯୋଉ ମାଛଟି ଲାଗେ, ସେଇଟା ତ ଫିଶର ମ୍ୟାନ କମ୍ୟୁନିଟି ମାନେ କି ଯାଚି ଥାନ୍ତି, ସେଇ ଗୋଟେ ଲିଙ୍କ ଆପଣ କେବେ କୋଉଠି ପାଇବେ। ସବୁ ଜାଗାରେ ବି ନ ପାଇ ପାରନ୍ତି, କିନ୍ତୁ ଏଇ ଗୋଟେ ଲିଙ୍କଟେ ବି ରହେ, ଫିଶରମ୍ୟାନ କମ୍ୟୁନିଟି ସାଙ୍ଗରେ ବି ଲିଙ୍କ ରହେ।
ତାପରେ ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ମ୍ୟାଡାମ, ମାନେ ଗୋଟେ ଝିଅ ବାହା ହେଲା ପରେ
ହୁଁ
ପ୍ରଥମେ ଯିଏ ରୋଷେଇ କରେ, ସିଏ ଆମ ଏରିଆ କଥା କହୁଛି ପର୍ଟିକୁଲାରଲି।
ହଁ ହଁ ସାର୍
ଶାଗ ମାଛ ମାନେ ଫାଷ୍ଟ ସିଏ ମାନେ ପ୍ରଥମ ରୋଷେଇ ଯିଏ କରେ ସେ ମାଛ ଆଉ ଶାଗ, ମାଛ ତରକାରୀ ଆଉ ଶାଗ
ହୁଁ
ଭଜା କରି ଦିଏ। ସେ ପ୍ରଥମ ଶାଗ ମାଛ ମାନେ ସେଇଟା ଗୋଟେ ସମ ଟାଇପ ଅଫ ଗୋଟେ ଭୋଜି, ବନ୍ଧୁବାନ୍ଧବ ଆସନ୍ତି, ମାନେ ସମସ୍ତେ ଖାଆନ୍ତି। ପ୍ରଥମ ସେ
ହୁଁ
କ୍ଷୀରି,
ହୁଁ
ଶାଗ, ମାଛ
ଆଚ୍ଛା
ଏ 3ଟା
ହଁ
ଦିଆଯାଏ।
ଆଚ୍ଛା
ସେ ପ୍ରଥମ ରୋଷେଇଟା, ସିଏ ତାର ପ୍ରଥମ ରୋଷେଇ ହେଲା
ହୁଁ
ଶାଗ ମାଛ। ମାନେ ମୁଁ
ଶାଗ
ଭାବୁଛି
ମାଛ
ମାଛଟା ସିମ୍ବଲିକ ଅଫ ସମଥିଙ୍ଗ ଗୁଡ ବୋଲି ଭାବୁଛି ମୁଁ।
ହଁ ମାଛ ଇଟ୍ସ ସିମ୍ବଲିକ ଅଫ ଗୁଡ ଅଲସୋ। ମାନେ ଆପଣ ଦେଖିବେ ବେଙ୍ଗଲୀ ୱେଡିଙ୍ଗସରେ ବି ମାଛ ଯୋଉଟା ମାନେ ଇଏ ଯାଏ, ଭାର ଯାଏ। ଆଉ
ହୁଁ
ଆପଣ ମୟୂରଭଞ୍ଜରେ ବି, ଆମ ମାମା ଘର ମୟୂରଭଞ୍ଜ, ତାଙ୍କ ସାଇଡରେ ବି ମାଛ ଯୋଉଟା ଭାରରେ ଯାଏ। ତ fish is actually symbolic of ମାନେ ଯୋଉ ଆପଣ କହୁଛନ୍ତି ନା ଗୋଟେ ହାପି ମ୍ୟାରିଡ ଲାଇଫ, ସେ ଟାଇପ ର ଗୋଟେ ସିମ୍ବଲିକ ରହୁଛି।
ଆମର ବି ମ୍ୟାଡାମ ଏଠି ଯୋଉ ବୋହୂ ଯୋଉ ଆସେ, ମାନେ
ହୁଁ ହୁଁ
ଯୋଉ ଶାଗ ମାଛ ଯୋଉ ଦିନ ଗୋଟେ ମାନେ ଡେଟ ଥାଏ ଶାଗ ମାଛ, ଆଉ
ହୁଁ
ସେଇଟା ବାପ ଘରୁ ହିଁ ଆସେ ଶାଗ ଭାର, ଶାଗ ମାଛ।
ହଁ
ଆଉ
ମାଛ
ସେଇଦିନ
ଭାର
ସମସ୍ତେ ଖାଆନ୍ତି। ହଁ ହଁ ମାଛ ଆସେ,
ଆସେ।
ଶାଗ ଆସେ। ଆମର ଏଠି ଶାଗ ମାଛ ବୋଲି କୁହନ୍ତି।
ମୁଁ ଅନେଷ୍ଟଲି ଭେରିଏସନ ବିଷୟରେ ଜାଣିନଥିଲି। ଅବଶ୍ୟ ମୋ ଷ୍ଟେଟ ତ ସବୁ ଜାଗାରେ ସବୁ ଭେରିଏସନ ଜାଣିନି ମୁଁ, କିନ୍ତୁ ଏଇ ଯୋଉ ମାଛଟା ଯୋଉ କହୁଛନ୍ତି, ଏଇଟା ଗୋଟେ ବାହାଘର ଟାଇମରେ ଆମର ପ୍ରଥା ଅଛି, ଗୋଟେ ମାଛଟା ଆସେ। ବହୁତ ଜାଗାରେ ଆସୁଥିଲା, ଏବେ ଟିକେ କମିଗଲାଣି। ଏବେ ତ ସେ ଭାର ବି କମିଗଲାଣି। ତ ଭାର ମାନେ ଆଜିକାଲି ଲୋକ ସେ ମିଠାକୁ ରେଷ୍ଟ୍ରିକ୍ଟେଡ କରିଦେଲେଣି। ନହେଲେ ଗୋଟେ ଝିଅ ଯେତେବେଳେ ଯାଏ ବାହା ହେଇକି, ତା ସାଙ୍ଗରେ ଚାଉଳ ଯାଏ, ତା ସାଙ୍ଗରେ ଆମର ଯୋଉ ଜାଇ ଗୁଡା ସବୁ ଯାଏ, ଆଉ ପରିବା ଯାଏ, କେତେ ବହୁତ ଭାର ଯାଏ। ତ ମାନେ ଗୋଟେ ଝିଅ ବାହା ହେଇକି ଆସିବେ, ଯଦି ଦେଖିବେ ତା ସାଙ୍ଗରେ କେତେ ମାନେ ତା ଶ୍ୱଶୁର ଘରୁ କେତେ ଜଣ ଜିନିଷ ବୋହିକି ଆଣିଛନ୍ତି,
ହୁଁ
ସେଇଟା ଗୋଟେ
ହୁଁ
ଆମର ଘରେ ରହୁଥିଲା। ମାନେ ଆମ ଗାଁରେ ତା ଶ୍ୱଶୁର ଘର କେତେ ଟାଣିଆ, ମାନେ ଏମିତି କହନ୍ତି, ମାନେ କେତେ ଭଲ,
ହୁଁ
ହାଉ ୱେଲ୍ ଅଫ୍ ଦେ ଆର୍। ସୋ ସେଇଟା ଗୋଟେ ରହୁଥିଲା ଆଗରୁ, ଏବେ ତ ସେ ନାହିଁ ସେ ସିଷ୍ଟମ। ବଟ୍ ହଁ, ମାଛଟା ଆମର ସେମିତି ଆସୁଥାଏ। ଆଉ
ନା,
ଷଠି ପୂଜାରେ ବି ମାଛଟା ସବୁବେଳେ ଆମର ୟୁଜ ହେଇ ଆସୁଛି।
ଏବେ ବି ହଉଛି ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ଆମ
ହଁ
ଏରିଆରେ,
ହଁ ହଁ
ଶ୍ରୀକାକୁଲମ ଜିଲ୍ଲାରେ ଷଠି
ଆମେ
ପୂଜାରେ
ଆମ
ହୁଏ।
ଘରେ ହେଇଥିଲା ଷଠି ପୂଜାରେ। ଏଇଠି ଆମର ଯୋଉ ଷଠି ମାନେ ଯୋଉ ଓଷାଟା ହଉଛନ୍ତି, ମାଛଟା ଶୁଖୁଆ ମାଛ, ଏ ଯୋଉ ଏବେ କାଞ୍ଜିଅଁଳା ଓଷା ହେଲା, ଶୁଖୁଆଟି ପୂଜା ହେଲା, ଠାକୁରାଣୀଙ୍କ ପାଖରେ ମାଛଟି ଲାଗିବ, କି ମାଛ କି ଶୁଖୁଆ ଯାହାହେଲେ ବି ପ୍ରାୟ ସମୟରେ ଆପଣ ଦେଖିବେ ଲାଗିବ। ଖାଲି କିଛିଟା ଠାକୁରାଣୀଙ୍କୁ ଆପଣ ଛାଡିଦେଲେ ତାଙ୍କ ପାଖରେ ପ୍ରାୟ ଲାଗେ।
ମାଛଟା ଲାଗେ, ମାଛ ବଳି ଦିଅନ୍ତି ବି।
ମାଛ ବଳି ବି ଦିଆଯାଏ ସେମିତି।
ମାଛ ବଳି ଦିଆଯାଏ। ତାପରେ କାଞ୍ଜି ସହିତ କହିପାରିବେ କିଛି, କାଞ୍ଜି ବିଷୟ?
कांजी विषय तो मो बही रे लिखी बहुत किसी लिखी कांजी गोटे डिश हम देखिए इट इज नॉट रेस्ट्रिक्टेड टू ओडिशा इट इज देयर एट द नेशनल लेवल तो कांजी कंजी गंजी ये जो वर्ड्स गुड़ा आप शुणिबे नॉर्थ रे भी शुणिबे अपन साउथ रे भी शुणी पारिबे तार गोटे बहुत समय देखिए कि से जिनसटा गोटे फर्मेंटेड जिनस को पॉइंट करे फर्मेंटेड माने जेमती हम तोराणी कांजीटे हला से जिनसटा बासी हे जेची खट्टा हे जेची से जिनस को से पॉइंट करूची नॉर्थ इंडिया रे कांजी माने से माने जो गाजर की मूला को फर्मेंट करके से पानी को पियंती ताकू साने कांजी कहउचंती आ गंजी माने जो भात टाको हमें बहुत समय माने ये करले जो पेजुआ भात जो हे जाऊ टाइप रो पानिया पानिया जाऊ ताकू साउथ रे से माने गंजी कहउचंती सिमिलर साउंडिंग वर्ड्स गंजी कांजी भी अच्छी साउथ रे आई थिंक इट्स देयर इन तमिल क्यूजिन माने खट्टा फर्मेंटेड डिश तारो जेमती खाली राइस नहीं पूरा मिलेट टा भी टिके फर्मेंट है कि कांजी टाइप रो जिंस बना होची साउथ रे सो इट इज नॉट अ डिश व्हिच इज रेस्ट्रिक्टेड टू ओडिशा ओडिशा रे आपण बहुत वेरिएशन पाइबे कांजी आपण का बना हुए माने कोई भी तोराणी रे कांजी हुए हमर फळ
हमर
कांजी
तोराणी कांजी मैडम हमर
हाँ
तोराणी रे कांजी
तोराणी
विभिन्न प्रकार माने फल सब पका जाए माने अमृतभंडा भेंडी
हाँ
तापरे लाउ बहुत बढ़िया लगे तापरे टिके कंचा लंका टिके
लिंगराज
मैगी
बाबू अन्य काहरी भी पचरा थिबा हम टिके आउ टिके अन्य मानक भी सुजोग देबा टिके
हाँ दियन हाँ ठीक अछि हाँ
जदि आपण मानक भीतर किए किछ पचरा चाहती काइंडली पचरंतु काई तापर स्पीकर तांकर नेक्स्ट पार्ट को जिवे शी हैज अ सेकंड पार्ट आल्सो
आगे मोर गोटे क्वेश्चन आमे आमे आजिकली ओडिया बापा माँ माने भारी माने टिके वरीड जे आम पिला माने आपण ओडिसा रे देखथिबे माने इंडिया रे भी देखथिबे पिला माने आ ओडिया खाद्य प्रति एते नाही से माने ताकर नूडल्स माने ये करचंती से माने दे रादर प्रिफर माने मोमोज देन मंडा तो केमिति आम पिला मानु का आमे गेट इंटरेस्टेड इन ओडिया फूड एनी थॉट्स
सर ये जिनसटा मु कहि परिबे आपन को मु घरे कोन करूची मु से जिनसटा कहि परिबी वो तांको माने ऑनेस्टली जदि आपन कहबे जदि अपन छुआ छोट अछि यू स्टार्ट कैच देम यंग हम बहुत छोट एजरु तांको अपन घर खाद्यटा तांको यूज टू करेबे कि माने हां घर खाइबा जते बेसी हे पर घर खाइबा खाइबे घरे ही भल जिनस बने के देबे ओडिया डिशेस भल जिनस किछ बने के देबे हमर भी छटपटा डिशेस अछि एमिति करिवे कि छुआटा को से माने वेरिएशन आनिबे ताको सीजनल खाइबा सिखेबे माने सब प्रकार हमें कोन करू बहुत समय रे एज ए मदर एज ए यंग मदर आई नो हमर बहुत समय प्रॉब्लम कोन हे जोची हम से छोट छुआटा छोट अछि ताको ग्राइंडिंग करके खोइ दो सब जिनस पसी जाय मिजे कि ग्राइंडिंग करके खोइ देलु करे so once the kid is getting used to that kind of food they don't develop the taste buds to appreciate everything other like you know seasonal ingredients तो मु छुआ को छोटे बेले बहुत जिनस भजा फॉर्म रे देची मो को सो टचवुड से आजी ने अप्रिशिएट करि पारची मु ताको टे भेंडी भजाटे दे देबी से माने छुआटे एमिति हे गलानी से भजार बासना रो देखि माने सुंगी के से जान दोची कि आज घरे कोन हेची he has food outside food but I limit it to once in a week or twice in a week mu taku debi outside food so we have to be a little strict with the kids kanki ultimately it is going to affect their health तांको सेति की हेल्थ कॉन्शियस बनेयार अछि तेरे मु बहीटा लिखिली मु मो पो को ढाकी के मझे मझे देखाय ताको देख बाबा देख मु काहे की जिनसटा लिखिची तू बुझेर चेष्टा कर इट इज गुड फॉर आवर हेल्थ हमको अल्टीमेटली तमे तो छोटा छ हम तो जहाली भी एज हलन but what will be your condition if you eat this kind of food for the next 10 years or 20 years हमको से जिनसटा हमको बुझिया पड़िबा हमको एक्स्ट्रा एफर्ट दवा पे पड़िबा सर और हमको घरे ए खाइबा को कंट्रोल करिया पड़िबा
एकदम ठीक कथा कहले मैडम कहीं के मोर जने पड़ोसी थे भुवनेश्वर रे तांको छोट छुआ ताकू से पिला दिन ही कलरा खायाटा एमिति अभ्यास करथिले से कलरा देखले जेमति रसगोला को माने खाया पे दौड़ंती से सेमति कलरा खाया पे एते आग्रह थिला तेणु lot depends on the parents how they groom their child to relish and like foods
हाँ माने से जिते छोटो रो अपन से छुआ को सिखेबे and let them enjoy the texture of the dish smell texture individual ingredients को सब बेले संतुला न देकी ताको भजा देबे so that he is able to identify the taste and the smell of the ingredients. That way se mane besi they'll form that connection with that vegetable or ingredient.
ମୁଁ ଶ୍ଵେତାକୁ ଜଷ୍ଟ ମାନେ ଆଡ୍ ଅନ୍ କରିବି ଶ୍ଵେତାଙ୍କର କଥାକୁ। ମୁଁ ବି ଗୋଟେ ୟଙ୍ଗ ମଦରରୁ ଏବେ ମୋର ପୁଅ ଟିକେ ବଡ ହେଲାଣି, ମାନେ ଏକଦମ ସାନ ନାହିଁ। ଆଉ ମୁଁ ଓଡିଶା ବାହାରେ, ସେ ଜନ୍ମ ହେଇଛି ଓଡିଶା ବାହାରେ, ତାପରେ ଭାରତ ବାହାରେ ବଡ ହେଇଛି। ତେଣୁ ଏଇଟା ଗୋଟେ ଆମର ଆଜ ଅ ପ୍ୟାରେଣ୍ଟ ଆମର ଆକ୍ଚୁଆଲି ରେସ୍ପନ୍ସିବିଲିଟି କହିପାରିବା। ଇଜି ୱେ ଆଉଟ୍ ତ ସମସ୍ତଙ୍କୁ ମାନେ ସହଜ ଲାଗେ କରିବାକୁ, ମାନେ ଯୋଉଟା କହିଲେ ଗୋଟେ ୟଙ୍ଗ ମା ଥିବ ତାକୁ ସବୁ ଚକଟା ଚକଟି କରି ଦେଇଦିଅ, ସେଟା ସରିଯିବ ଖାଇବାଟା ମାନେ ଜଲ୍ଦି, ବାକି ବି କାମ ଥାଏ। ବଟ୍ ଯଦି ଆମେ ସାନ ବେଳରୁ ତାଙ୍କୁ ବିଭିନ୍ନ ଜିନିଷର ତାଙ୍କୁ ଏକ୍ସପ୍ଲୋର କରେଇବା, ତାଙ୍କ ଟେଷ୍ଟ ବଡ୍ ଡେଭଲପ କରେଇବା, ମାନେ ଆଜି ମୋ ପୁଅ ସେ ପଖାଳ ବି ସେତିକି ଭଲ ପାଏ ଯେତିକି ସେ ଏଠି ବାହାର ଦେଶର ଖାଇବା ବି ଖାଉଛି। ମାନେ ବେସର, ପଖାଳ, ଶାଗ, କଲରା, ଭେଣ୍ଡି ସବୁ କିଛି ସେ ମାନେ ଇକ୍ୱାଲି ଏନ୍ଜୟ କରେ ଅଦର ଦ୍ୟାନ ମାନେ ନନ୍ ଇଣ୍ଡିଆନ୍ ଫୁଡ। ସେଇ ଜିନିଷଟା ମତେ ଲାଗୁଛି ସେ ଯେତେ ୟଙ୍ଗ ପ୍ୟାରେଣ୍ଟସ୍ ଅଛନ୍ତି ଟିକେ ଏକ୍ସଟ୍ରା ଏଫର୍ଟ ଲଗେଇକି ପିଲାମାନଙ୍କୁ ସେଇ ବିଷୟରେ ଆଣ୍ଡ ଗୋଟେ କଥା ହେଲା we have to live it also। ଆମକୁ ବି ଲିଭିଂ ଏକ୍ସାମ୍ପଲ ହବାକୁ ପଡିବ। ଯଦି ଆମେ ଇଜି ୱେ ଆଉଟ୍ ନେଉଛେ ପିଲାମାନେ ବି ଆମକୁ ଦେଖିକି କରିବେ। ସୋ ଦ୍ୟାଟ୍ସ ଅଲ୍। ଶ୍ଵେତା ଜଷ୍ଟ ତୁମକୁ ଆଡ୍ କରୁଥିଲି ତମ କଥାକୁ ବିକଜ ଆଇ
ଆଜ୍ଞା
ଆମ୍ ସେମ୍।
ନମସ୍କାର,
Thank
ବହୁତ
you,
ବଢିଆ
thank you.
କହିଲେ ଆପଣ, ବହୁତ ବଢିଆ କଥା କହିଲେ। ଆମେ ଯଦି ନ ତାଙ୍କୁ ଦବା ସେମାନେ କେମିତି ଜାଣିବେ? ତ ମୁଁ କହୁଛି ଆମର ମାନେ ଲାଇକ୍ ୟୁଏସ୍ ରେ ମାନେ ଯେତେ ଓଡିଆ ଅଛନ୍ତି, ଓଡିଆ ପିଲା ବି ଅଛନ୍ତି, ଦେ ଲଭ୍ ପଖାଳ। ଆପଣ ଯୋଉ ପଖାଳ ଫର ସମ ରିଜନ ଦେ ଲଭ୍ ପଖାଳ, ମାନେ ପଖାଳ ତା ସାଙ୍ଗରେ ଆମେ ଯାହା କରୁ ବଡ଼ିଚୁରା, ଆଳୁ ଭର୍ତ୍ତା ଯାହା କଲୁ, ମାନେ ମୁଁ କହୁଛି ଯୋଉ ସେକେଣ୍ଡ ଜେନେରେସନ ଓଡିଆ ଏଠି ବି ୟୁଏସ୍ ରେ ସେମାନେ ଦେ ଲଭ୍ ପଖାଳ। ଫର ସମ ରିଜନ ପଖାଳ, ଦହିବରା, ଆଳୁଦମ, ମାନେ ଆଟଲିଷ୍ଟ ଆମେ କିଛିଟା ଓଡିଆ କୁଜିନ ମାନେ ଏଇଠି ୟୁଏସ୍ ରେ ମାନେ ବଞ୍ଚେଇକି ରଖିଛୁ। ନମସ୍କାର।
That's a good thing, sir. That's a good thing. Sir, can we continue next part?
Yeah,
Can
sure,
we go to the
sure.
next
Please continue. Please continue. ତମ ଭିଡିଓଟା କଣ କାମ କରୁନି କି?
ନାଇଁ sir, ଭିଡିଓଟା କାହିଁକି ଗୋଟେ ପ୍ରୋବ୍ଲେମ ଦଉଛି? It's not
ଆଚ୍ଛା,
getting switched
ଓକେ।
on.
କାହିଁକି ମୁଁ ଏପଟେ ଦେଖିପାରୁଛି ଯେ ଆପଣଙ୍କର ଭିଡିଓଟା ଅନ୍ ଅଛି ବୋଲି। ଠିକ ଅଛି, ଠିକ
ହଁ,
ଆପଣ
ମୁଁ ବି ଅନ୍ କରିବାକୁ ଚେଷ୍ଟା କରୁଛି, ଆସୁନି। ହଁ
ହଁ
ହଁ।
ଠିକ ଅଛି, ଓକେ 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 ଓକେ।
My slide is visible? Sir?
ନା ଶ୍ଵେତା, ସେୟାର ସ୍କ୍ରିନ୍ କରିବା ଉପରେ ଏବେ ସେୟାର ସ୍କ୍ରିନ୍ ଟା
Maybe there is a problem with my network also, I feel. Is it visible now? My
ହଁ
screen is visible?
ହଁ ଏବେ ଆସିଲା।
Okay. Okay, so now I'll just say a few things about my book Beyond Dalma. So, what you can expect in Beyond Dalma? What does it have? I mean, what is the book all about? So, I'm speaking about the recipes of the soil and the recipes of the people on a ground level, grassroots root level recipes. It is about the book contains these kind of recipes. I don't have any fancy temple recipes in my book. It is more about recipes which have evolved organically. जो ଏବେ explain कली लोकंकर caste हला कि आउ କିଛି जो ହେଲା the way the food has evolved organically, ସେ type of recipes ମୋ ବହିରେ ଅଛି, ଆପଣ ଦେଖିପାରିବେ। So these recipes have evolved organically over centuries. They cater to the people living off the land. ସେମାନେ ଯଦି like ମାନେ ଗୋଡ଼ ରହିଲେ କି ଆପଣଙ୍କର they doing farming କରଣ ହେଲେ, so how the recipes have evolved in their case. So temple recipes are not covered intentionally because it requires a different point, a different perspective. And I'm covering seasonal food. Temple ready seasonal achi. Temple also has temple food is also seasonal in nature. But here I'm focusing on the recipes of the people. So these are the recipes. They demonstrate a lot of variation with region and caste. This is obvious. And they optimize the use of resources. Locally available ingredients, they use locally available ingredients, and they try to do the best which they can with these locally available ingredients. So the focus of Beyond Dalma, seasonal aspect of food. So the body undergoes changes with the changing seasons. Our body needs different kind of nutrition, different kind of food during the different seasons. So we need, that is why seasonal aspect of food is important. We should understand what kind of food to eat during which season. So Ayurveda prescribes certain categories of food in certain seasons. The little traditions, by little traditions, I mean the traditions of the state or the region, the smaller regions. And food beliefs, they also display a similar pattern, but they use a different lingo. ଆୟୁର୍ବେଦରେ ଆପଣ ଦେଖିବେ ସେ ମାନେ when they talk in terms of Ayurveda, they talk about vata, pitta and kapha, the doshas, the dominant doshas that a person has. They talk about it and they prescribe which food you should eat if this dosha is aggravated, or in that way they explain the food. But in our tradition, in our language, in our like regional way, we say that it a peta ପାଇଁ ଭଲ, it is a munda pimpala, or this is good for your bones, also good for your skin. So we use a very different kind of lingo, but it is the same thing. If you try to do the comparison, which I've tried to do in my book, there is a lot of similarity between Ayurveda and the traditional food approach that our grandmothers used to have. When you do a comparison, you find the similar patterns. So I have referred to Ayurveda in some places in my book because a lot of people are like more familiar with Ayurveda, and they'll find it easier to relate to it. Okay, and there's the advantage that this local food beliefs or the local food habits have, that they're much more customized to cater to climate of a given terrain compared to Ayurveda. If you look at Ayurveda, so Ayurveda will say that in summers you should have sweet liquid drinks, but in our part of the state we have Pona. Obviously we have Pona. They use a lot of buttermilk, but we have a lot of fermented rice water or pakhala. So this is a difference. They have a more like the dry climate over in north. It's a little different the climate than compared to our state. So in our climate and given the kind of ingredients that we have, pakhala is a better choice for us. Obviously, pana is there, but if you go to the the poorer sections of society, you don't see a lot of pana being used because pana calls for little expensive ingredients. But pakhala is definitely there. So when you talk about these kind of regional beliefs and regional food habits, they are more in sync with the climate of a given area. And yeah, next point is annual detox routine is part of many cultures. So if you see most cultures, they will have a period or a month of 1 month or 15 days when the diet is very restricted, or they will be keeping a fast. So every culture understands that once in a year you should detox the body, and this is usually during the time of the uh, late monsoon to early winter. This is the period of time when your body needs to detox itself. Okay. Next is our ancestors observed these changes and very ingeniously incorporated suitable ingredients in the festivals observed and food consumed during the seasons. So in my book, I'm writing this very clearly that there's a link between the festivals and the food which is prepared during that festival and the season. So it is linked because certain it's our ancestors, they used to observe how the body is behaving during different periods of time, and what is uh, being found locally, what food grows locally during this period of time, what happens when you eat these kind of food, what happens to your body. So they were very mindful in some ways, and therefore these things which we have, no, they should not eat this during this period of time. So these restrictions are very much valid, and if you follow them, you actually observe that your health, uh, there is improvement in your health. And I have done this myself, and therefore I can clearly write it in my book that there is a relationship, and if you follow it, you obviously stand to gain from it. So what do you stand to gain from the book Beyond Dalma? So this is what I can say. This is a USP of my book. So a broad spectrum understanding of the food festival, and culture of the state. So yes, my book is not restricted to recipes. It fosters the understanding of the food festivals, the culture of the state, and what is the interrelationship between food seasons and festivals, what we eat, why we eat, what we eat during any particular month, and awareness of the diverse and unique food cultures of the state. So yes, I have tried to incorporate a lot of recipes from Western Odisha as well. Some recipes from the northern parts of the state, few recipes from the southern parts of the state. I've tried to keep the cuisine, the recipes in my book as diverse as possible, and not restricted to the coastal region. So when we present it to anyone at a national level, we um, uh, we give a very unified picture of the food culture of our state, a more representative form, and not just coastal cuisine, because then people will start thinking that everyone in state of Odisha, they eat dalma and rasagulla and this pokkhala. Because pokkhala everyone eats, but dalma, even though it is a very good and nutritious dish, it has historically relegated to the coastal region. Okay, so now let us focus on the month of Kartika and the dietary restrictions. So now this is somewhere, this is a section where I have focused on how the food helps us in certain ways, the food of a certain season or a festival. Now, if you talk about the ritual of Hobisa, as I explained to sir also, Hobisa is a month which is not just dietary restrictions. There are a lot of restrictions. If you for the people who observe a Kartika Vrata, what they do, that there is a restrictions in their thought, in their actions. This is a period of self, you can say, contemplation. It's a period to cleanse the body and the mind. So this is a very special period of time where you should focus on yourself. You should focus on God. When you focus on God, you're actually focusing on yourself. You're getting your thoughts, everything together. So let us talk a little bit about the food of Kartik. If you see, the people who observe this fast, and it's not just widows, other people also observe this fast. It's a little more rigorous for the widows. They eat one time in a day, and when they eat, they make a meal of restricted ingredients. So very few ingredients go into that hobis or alma, which they pair with some greens and this kandia or the lembu, to make it a little more, you can say, palatable, and also to balance the acidic effect of the taro and the yam. So this taro and yam, it tends to itch the mouth. Itchiness is there in the mouth if you eat this kind of foods, underground of tubers and all. So you if you add a little amount of citrus, then it balances it out. Even the o or the elephant apple which we use in this dalma, it is to balance the flavor and the this itching tendency of these vegetables. So during this month, everything, the food that we eat is very light. We eat once in a day, so it allows the body to detox. It allows body to get rid of all the toxins which have accumulated throughout the year. So you're detoxing your body and your mind. So moong dal, what is the advantage of moong dal? It's easier to digest. It is one which balances all the doshas. Other kinds of dal, if you see, they usually help to balance one dosha, but at the same time they tend to aggravate the other. So yes, the this is moong dal is the one which does not have a dosha. According to Ayurveda, it does not have any dosha because it balances all the three doshas in an equal manner. It's easy to digest. So we can see, if you read through the text of the book, all the heavy dals are out. Red rice is out, black rice is out, because these are heavier to digest. White rice, it spikes your sugar levels. Yeah, it is true that it spikes your sugar levels compared to red and black rice. But at the same time, when you eat it with lentils and you add ghee on top of it, it's a very balanced meal. So it will not spike your sugar levels. So this whole theory that rice is bad, it spikes your sugar level, is not correct. It all depends on how you're consuming it, in what combination you're eating it. So So our ancestors, they knew these kind of things, so they incorporated these ingredients during the festivals, like during this Kartika Brata and all, so that your body gets cleansed once in a year. We say that it is for religious reasons, but it goes much deeper than religion. Okay, so I just like to wind it up. It's almost going to be 9 o'clock. So, what we can expect, or what we understand when we talk about seasonal food and beyond Dalma, is that this and you get an enhanced awareness of the local cuisine, which paves you the way for greater understanding of various historical influences that have swept through the region. So, when you understand food, you study food from these mindset that okay, these are the points that I have to keep in mind when I try to decode the food that I'm eating. You will be more aware, and you will actually enjoy the food a little more when you know a bit more about it. Eating seasonal food that is in accordance with Ayurveda and local tradition helps boost immunity. So, which is a correct thing. When the food is seasonal, you don't need a ton of fertilizers, you don't need a ton of preservatives. So, when you are eating cauliflower off season, the amount of preservatives and fertilizer which is going into it is mind blowing. Doesn't taste good. On top of it, there's a ton of chemicals which is going into your body, and ultimately that chemical is it's causing imbalance in our body. So we need, when you eat fresh seasonal vegetables, the amount of preservatives and chemicals that's going into your body is lesser. So, and local food that which gets perished easily. I mean, it has not been transported. If it has to be transported, usually they will spray it with something to make it last longer. If you eat local food, again, the amount of preservatives which go into your body is less. So, apart from the fact that seasonal food, regional seasonal food is we for awareness of our Odia culture, it gives awareness of Odia culture. It's also good for us in many ways. It's good for us in for many reasons, and we should try to include as much seasonal food and regional food, local food in our diet. Eating the way our grandmothers did is perhaps the best way to lead a sustainable, low carbon footprint and healthy life. So, as our grandmothers used to practice, they used to practice all these things. Keep a fast at some point of time. Then you eat in limited quantity. They used to eat before sunset. Like a lot of people, they don't used to eat early and sleep early, so that body's rhythm, clock, everything it stays in tune. For us, we spend a lot of time, we eat late because our office work winds up late. Usually for us, that is the thing. We keep working late, we eat late, and we sleep even later, and we just wake up the next morning feeling all tired and drained out. So yes, these things are not totally avoidable. You can't say, like, because if your work life balance, obviously work is important, but in some way, if we try to keep things in balance, it helps us stay in healthy, and we'll be happier also, not just healthy, a more happier life. So I guess this is what I had to say about Beyond Dalma, about the broader conversation about food. And thank you for listening to me. Um, and yeah, so you are what you eat. So don't forget to practice mindful eating. What we eat feeds us. It feeds our brain. So yes, we need to be a little more mindful when we put anything into our body. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you,
Everyone.
Sweta madam. It was really a wonderful presentation. I'm tempted to add two things to your presentation.
Yes, sir.
As you rightly said, we should actually eat locally grown food. And as an example, I would say that suppose you grow kiwi fruit in New Zealand in organic manner and consider it environmental friendly. But the moment you send the kiwi fruit to different parts of world by ships, and they reach distant shores, they are no more environment friendly, because by then each kg of fruit has emitted so much of carbon by burning the fossil fuel. So uh, you said it from a different angle, but there is also a climatic angle to uh, profess consumption of locally grown food. That is what I just wanted to add. And thank you.
Yes, sir.
Now, this forum is open for comments and questions from the participants. I would request all members to kindly unmute your microphone and then put your comment or question. ଯଦି କାହାର କିଛି ପ୍ରଶ୍ନ ପଚାରିବାର ଅଛି ବା କିଛି କମେଣ୍ଟ ଦେବାର ଅଛି ଆପଣ ଅନମ୍ୟୁଟ୍ କରନ୍ତୁ ଆଉ ପ୍ରଶ୍ନ ପଚାରନ୍ତୁ। ସଞ୍ଜୟ
हाँ सुनिए
କେମିତି ଲାଗିଲା ପ୍ରେଜେଣ୍ଟେସନ?
बहुत सुंदर प्रेजेंटेशन थिला माने हम ओडिसा रे खाद्य को नहीं एते सुंदर एनालिसिस एवं सुंदर कंक्लूजन बहुत भल लागिला माने राइट कंक्लूजन he has taken the right conclusion ए सत्या मैडम मूलरू आरंभ करथिले रीजनल इन्फ्लुएंसेस ऑन फूड केमती कल्चरल टाइज विथ नेबर्स कोस्टल बेल्ट नॉर्दर्न पार्ट वेस्टर्न पार्ट सदर्न पार्ट फूड केमती इंस्पायर्ड हेची केमती इन्फ्लुएंस्ड हेची साइड एरिया को नहीं करी सुंदर भाबरे से गुडा को कहिले तापरे वेरिएशंस इंट्रोड्यूस्ड ड्यू टू लोकल ingredients and how the same food is transformed due to difference in locally available ingredients से बहुत भल करी कहले you gave a very good example of मंडा पिठा केमती कोस्टल एरिया रे नडिया पुरो दही छेना छेना गोटा मुग पुरो दिया जाए बिरी पुरो दिया जाए से विषय कहले सुंदरगढ़ रे राशि बादाम पुरो दिया जाए अनुगुण रे कोलथ पुरो दिया जाए एगुड़ा सब आम जानी नथिलु सोनपुर संबलपुर रे केमती तार आउटर स्टफ टा गोटा मुग रे तैयारी कारण सेठी बहुत मुग चाष हुए तेणु मुग रे हुए सेटा सुंदर भाव से वर्णना करछंती एनालिसिस करछंती तापरे कास्ट ने कि हाउ कास्ट हैज प्लेड ए रोल डिटरमिनिंग द मेन्यू नेकरी केमती ब्राह्मण्स करण चषा गौड़ ट्राइबल्स ये सब नहीं समस्त फूड हैबिट केमती एवं समस्त काम को नहीं फूड गुड़ा केमती स्थिर होती केमती स्थिरीकृत होती से सुंदर भाव एक्सप्लेन करछंती तांको सही अनुसार से जाति नहीं केमती मेन्यू सब होती बढ़िया मारे वर्णना करछंती सुंदर एनालिसिस तापरे यू टॉक्ड अप ओडिया फूड्स यूज्ड ड्यूरिंग ट्रैवल्स जेपरि चूड़ा छतुआ आरिसा पिठा से विषय कहले
ए जो आरिसा पिठा संजय ए जो आरिसा पिठा मते लागुची तमिलनाडु रे चावल को कोनते आरसी 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 आरिसी तार माने हो चावल आ हमर चावल रे तयारी पिठा को हमें कुछ आरिसा सेते लिंक थिबो निश्चित भाबरे
एई टाइप रे किंतु एता हमर आउ को रीजन रे आरिसा पिठा नाही तेणु आइदर से आरिसी रो आरिसा हेइतो कि कोन हेइतो किंतु इंडिया रे अन्य कोन स्थान रे
अच्छा कोन कहउचंती
हां मैडम
सर आरिसी पिठाटा आपण जो कहउचंती जो आरिसी वर्ड टा सेटा राइस को डिनोट करा हुए एंड दैट वर्ड इज कमिंग फ्रॉम संस्कृत आल्सो बिकॉज़ दैट वर्ड तमिल लिटरेचर रे भी गोटे जगह रे आरिसी वर्ड टा हमें सुनिया पे पाउचो आ जो आरिसा पिठा जेटा सेटा इंडिया रे बहुत रीजन से अच्छी टिके टिके डिफरेंट ना रे अच्छी किंतु इट इज देयर व्हिच इज देयर लाइक थ्रू आउट द इंडिया जेमती हमने कांजी टा मु कहली कांजी ओडिया इंडिया रे बहुत जगह आपण पाइबे टिके टिके वेरिएशन संगे सेमती आरिसा पिठाटा भी पाइबे सो आई बिलीव इट इज वन ऑफ दोस डिशेस व्हिच इज ट्रैवल्ड वाया ट्रेड बहुत डिशेस हमरो वाया ट्रेड ट्रैवल करे रीजन्स को तो एटा में सेही गुटे डिश कैटेगरी रे आसीबो जोटा कि हम ट्रेड वाया ट्रैवल करी कि डिफरेंट पार्ट्स ऑफ इंडिया रे स्प्रेड हेची
मैडम आ गोटे भल कथा आपण नुआ तथ्य देइछंती जोटा कि हम केही ଚିନ୍ତା କରିନଥିଲୁ, ଆମେ ଚିନ୍ତା ବାହାରେ ଥିଲା ଜାଇଫଳ କଥା। ଜାଇଫଳ କିପରି ବାହାରର ଗୋଟେ ଇଣ୍ଡୋନେସିଆର ପ୍ରଡକ୍ଟ, କେମିତି ସେ ସମୟକ୍ରମେ ନୌବାଣିଜ୍ୟ ପରମ୍ପରା ଯେତେବେଳେ ଥିଲା ସେ ସମୟରୁ ପୁରୀ ମନ୍ଦିରରେ ବି ପ୍ରଚଳିତ ହେଇଛି। ମାନେ ପୁରୀ ମନ୍ଦିର ଏତେ ପ୍ରାଚୀନ, ତେଣୁ ଆମ ନୌବାଣିଜ୍ୟ ପରମ୍ପରା ବି ସେଇଠିକି ପ୍ରାଚୀନ ନିଶ୍ଚିତ। ନହେଲେ ପୁରୀ ମନ୍ଦିରରେ ଅନ୍ୟ କୌଣସି ନୂଆ ଦ୍ରବ୍ୟ ପ୍ରବେଶ ହେଇନଥିଲା ବେଳେ ଜାଇଫଳର ପ୍ରବେଶ ଯେତେବେଳେ ଅଛି, ମାନେ କେଉଁ ଯୁଗରୁ ଆମର ନୌବାଣିଜ୍ୟ ପରମ୍ପରା ଥିଲା, ଜାଇଫଳ ଦ୍ୱାରା ମନ୍ଦିରରେ ପ୍ରବେଶ ହେଇଛି। ସେଇଟା
ସଞ୍ଜୟ
ଗୋଟେ
ସଞ୍ଜୟ
ହଁ
ସାର୍, ଗୋଟେ ଜିନିଷ ଏଠି ଆଡ୍ କରିବି ଶ୍ଵେତାଙ୍କର କଥାରେ। ଆମେ ଏ ବିଷୟରେ ବହୁତ ଥର କଥା ହଉତା, ତେଣୁ ଶ୍ଵେତାର
ହଁ
ମୋର ବି କଥା ହେଇଛ ବିଷୟରେ ଆଗରୁ। ଜାଇଫଳ ଲବଙ୍ଗ ଏଇ ଯୋଉ ଜିନିଷଟା, ଯୋଉଟା ଇଣ୍ଡୋନେସିଆନ ଦ୍ୱୀପପୁଞ୍ଜ ଆଜିକା ଡେଟ୍ରେ ଆମେ ଯୋଉଟା କହୁଛେ, ସେଇଟାର ପ୍ରେଜେନ୍ସ ଟା ଆମର ଇଭିନ୍ ଆହୁରି ପୁରାତନ ଲିଟରେଚର ଅଛି। ଆପଣ ଯଦି ରଘୁବଂଶମ ପଢିବେ, ଯୋଉଟା କି 5ମ ଶତାବ୍ଦୀ ପାଖାପାଖି ଲିଖିତ ଅଛି, କାଳିଦାସଙ୍କର ରଘୁବଂଶମ, ସେତେବେଳଠୁ ସେ କହୁଛନ୍ତି ଯେ ହେମାଙ୍ଗଦ, ଯେ କଳିଙ୍ଗ ନାଥ ଯେ ହେମାଙ୍ଗଦ, ମହେନ୍ଦ୍ରପତି ମହୋଦଧିପତି, ଯାହାର ପ୍ରାସାଦଟା ଠିକ ମହୋଦଧି ପାଖରେ, ସେ ଯେତେବେଳେ ସେ ପ୍ରାସାଦ ବାହାରର ତାଙ୍କର ଉଦ୍ୟାନରେ ଯେତେବେଳେ ବିଚରଣ କରନ୍ତି, ଦୂରରୁ ଲବଙ୍ଗ ଦ୍ୱୀପର ସେ ବାସ୍ନାଟା ଯୋଉ ଭାସି ଆସେ, ଯୋଉ ସୁଦୂର ମାନେ ଲବଙ୍ଗ, ଜାଇଫଳ, ଏଇ ଯୋଉ ଜିନିଷଟା ଇଣ୍ଡୋନେସିଆନ ଆଇଲ୍ୟାଣ୍ଡସର ମେ ବି ବହୁତ ପ୍ରଚୁର ପରିମାଣରେ ହଉଥିବ। ଆଉ ତାର କଣ୍ଟାକ୍ଟଟା କି ତାର ଏକ୍ସଚେଞ୍ଜଟା ଆମର କଳିଙ୍ଗ ସାଙ୍ଗରେ ମାନେ ଯେବେଠୁ ଅଛି, ନଟ୍ ଜଷ୍ଟ 10th ସେଞ୍ଚୁରୀ କି 5th ସେଞ୍ଚୁରୀ, ତାର ଆହୁରି
ହଁ
ଆଗରୁ,
ହଁ
ଖ୍ରୀଷ୍ଟ
ଆହୁରି
ପୂର୍ବ
ପଛେ।
ସମୟରୁ ଅଲରେଡି ଲୋକଙ୍କର ଏଇ ଏକ୍ସଚେଞ୍ଜଟା ହେଇଛି। ମାନେ ଏଠି ବି ତାପରେ ଗ୍ରୋନ୍ ହେଇଛି, ଭାରତରେ ବି ତାପରେ ବିଭିନ୍ନ ଜାଗାରେ ପ୍ଲାଣ୍ଟେସନ ହେଇଥିବ, ବଟ୍ ସେଇଟା ହେଲା ଅରିଜିନାଲ ପ୍ଲେସ୍ ଯୋଉଠୁ ଯୋଗରୁ ଲବଙ୍ଗ ଦ୍ୱୀପ ବି କୁହାଉଥିଲା, କି ନଟମେଗ ର ଗୋଟେ ନଟମେଗ ଯୋଉ କେମିତି ଡଚ୍ କଲୋନିଆଲ ମାନଙ୍କର ତା ରିଲେଟେଡ ଗୋଟେ ବହୁତ ଇମ୍ପୋର୍ଟାଣ୍ଟ ଇନସିଡେଣ୍ଟ ଅଛି ଇଣ୍ଡୋନେସିଆନ ହିଷ୍ଟ୍ରିର। ତ ସେଇ ଯୋଉ ଜିନିଷର ପ୍ରେଜେନ୍ସ ଟା କହିଲେ ଶ୍ଵେତା, ଦ୍ୟାଟ୍ ଇଜ ରିଏଲି ଭେରି ସିଗ୍ନିଫିକାଣ୍ଟ, କି କେମିତି ସେ ସମୟରେ ଏସବୁ ଜିନିଷ ଆସିକିନା ବି ମାନେ ଗ୍ରହଣ କରାହେଇଛି ଆମର ସୋସାଇଟିରେ। କିନ୍ତୁ ପରେ ଯେତେବେଳେ ଯୋଉ ଜିନିଷ ଗୁଡିକ ଆସିଛି, ଫର ଏକ୍ସାମ୍ପଲ ଟମାଟୋ ହେଲା, କି ବାକି ଯୋଉ ସବୁ ଚିଲି ପେପର ହେଲା, ସେଗୁଡାକ ୟୁରୋପିଆନ ମାନଙ୍କ ସାଙ୍ଗରେ ଯୋଉଟା ଆସିଛି, ସେଇଟାକୁ ଆମେ କିନ୍ତୁ ବିଲାତି ଭାବରେ, ମାନେ କି ଫରେନ ହିସାବରେ ଗ୍ରହଣ କରିଛେ। ଯେତେବେଳେ
ହଁ
ଆମ ଲୋକମାନେ ଯୋଉଟା ଯାଇକି ଆଣିଛନ୍ତି, ସେଟାକୁ କେହି ଫରେନ ହିସାବରେ ମାନେ ଗ୍ରହଣ କରିନାହାନ୍ତି। ଯେତେବେଳେ ସେଟା ଅନ୍ୟ ଲୋକମାନେ ଆମ ପାଖକୁ ଆଣିଛନ୍ତି, ସେଇଟା ଆମେ ତାକୁ ଫରେନ ହିସାବରେ କରିଛେ। ତେଣୁ ମନ୍ଦିରର କ୍ୟୁଜିନରେ ସେଟା ମୋର ଜଷ୍ଟ ମାଇ 2 ପଏଣ୍ଟସ୍। ଶ୍ଵେତା, ତମେ କିଛି
ନାଇଁ
କହିବ?
ନାଇଁ, ସେଇଟା ହିଁ ଠିକ।
Very
ସେଟା
good
ବହୁତ
point, Preeta.
ପୂର୍ବରୁ ଆସିଛି।
Very good point. Actually, ଆମେ ଯାଇକି ଆଣିଛୁ ଗୋଟେ ଜିନିଷ, ବହୁତ ଗୋଟେ ଜିନିଷ ଆପଣ ଦେଖି ଆମର ହିଁ ଟ୍ରେଡର୍ସ ମାନେ ଯାଇକି ଇଣ୍ଟ୍ରୋଡ୍ୟୁସ କରିଛନ୍ତି। ଆଣ୍ଡ ଆଇ ବିଲିଭ ଯୋଉ ଗୋଟେ ପଏଣ୍ଟ ଅଫ ହିଷ୍ଟ୍ରିରେ the thought process of the people became more rigid. ଆଗରୁ ଯଦି ଲୋକ ଆକ୍ସେପ୍ଟିଂ ଥିଲେ ଜିନିଷକୁ, ଗୋଟେ ନୋଟିସ୍ କରିବି ସବୁ ଜିନିଷରେ thought process is also becoming rigid if you look at history. So
Very true.
ଗୋଟେ ପଏଣ୍ଟ ପରେ ଏଇ ଯୋଉ ଜିନିଷଟା ଯୋଉ ଆସିଲା ବାହାରୁ ଆଉ ଆକ୍ସେପ୍ଟେଡ ହେଲାନି, ଆଉ ତମ ଆମେ ଅବଶ୍ୟ ଯୋଉ ଫରେନର୍ସ ମାନଙ୍କୁ ମିଲେଛ ବୋଲି ଇଏ ଗୋଟେ ରହିଗଲା, ସେଇ ଜିନିଷଟା ଗୋଟେ ଆମେ ତାଙ୍କର ଜିନିଷକୁ ଇଜିଲି ଆକ୍ସେପ୍ଟ ଆଉ କରିପାରିଲୁନି।
रूढ़िवादी जो शब्दटी अछि हमर
ହଁ रूढ़िवादी, ହଁ
ऑर्थोडॉक्स के रूढ़िवादी,
यस यस
ସେଇଟା ଗୋଟେ ସେଲ୍ଫ ପ୍ରିଜର୍ଭିଂ ଟେକ୍ନିକ ବି ଥିଲା। ବଟ୍
ହଁ ହଁ
ଆଟ୍ ଦ ସେମ୍ ଟାଇମ୍ ସେ ସେଲ୍ଫ ପ୍ରିଜର୍ଭେସନ ଟା ଗୋଟେ ପଏଣ୍ଟରେ ସେ ଫାଇନ୍ ଲାଇନ୍ ଟା ଡିଜଲ୍ଭ ହେଇଗଲା, ଆଉ ସେଟା ମୋର ଆଣ୍ଡ ମୋର रूढ़िवादी ଅର୍ଥୋଡକ୍ସ ହେଇଗଲା। ମାନେ ଯୋଉ
ହଁ
ରିଜନ,
ଆପଣ ଦେଖିବେ, yes, ହଁ
ସରି go ahead.
हाँ I was saying this, ମାନେ ଯୋଉ ଲକ୍ଷ୍ମୀ ଆମ ପୁରାଣରେ ଅଛି ଗୋଟେ ଖାଇବା ରେଷ୍ଟ୍ରିକ୍ସନ, ଦେଖିବେ ଆପଣ ମାଣବସା ଗୁରୁବାରରେ କି ଯୋଉ ଲକ୍ଷ୍ମୀ ପୁରାଣରେ ସେ ଗୋଟେ କହିଲେ ଲାଉକୁ ଆମିଷ ସାଙ୍ଗରେ ରାନ୍ଧିବନି, ଲାଉକୁ ଆମିଷ ସାଙ୍ଗରେ ଯୋଉ ରାନ୍ଧିବନି, ସେ ଆଉ କିଛି କହୁନାହାନ୍ତି, ଆଉ କୋଉ ପରିବାକୁ ମେନସନ କରୁନାହାନ୍ତି, ସେ ଖାଲି କହୁଛନ୍ତି ଲାଉକୁ ଆମିଷ ସାଙ୍ଗରେ କାହିଁକି ରାନ୍ଧିବନି। So ultimately, I was looking for some explanation to that, and I found that this dish associated with the Muslims, usually Muslims संग्रह में associate करो डालचा को, तो डालचा the very common variation which is found in Muslim households, it uses lau, lauki, and some mutton or something. So this is And it is made in dalcha is made in some parts of Bengal also. And Bengalis, they cook lauki with all kinds of non-veg ingredients. So probably see distinction to maintain Korea panki. We had these kind of small things which came into our text ki ए जिनसटा या संगे रांधिबनी एटा एमती खाइबो नाही. So that, yes, it's a self-preservation technique. It is, we are drawing lines, we are putting boundaries. कि तमे हाँ ए जिनसटा हमर क्यूजन रे नाही, तमे एटा करि परिबो नाही.
अच्छा
ଆଉ
मैडम
ଗୋଟେ
आप संजय को
ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ମ୍ୟାଡାମ ଆଉ ଗୋଟେ ଭଲ ଆସ୍ପେକ୍ଟ ଅଛନ୍ତି ଯୋଉ ସିଜନାଲ ଆସ୍ପେକ୍ଟସ ଅଫ ଫୁଡ, ସେଇଟା ଆମେ ଜାଣୁଛେ କିନ୍ତୁ ସେଟାକୁ ଏଲାବୋରେଟଲି ଯେମିତି ବର୍ଣ୍ଣନା କରିଛନ୍ତି ସେଇଟା ବଡ ଉଲ୍ଲେଖନୀୟ। ଦି ବଡି ଅଣ୍ଡରଗୋଜ୍ ଚେଞ୍ଜେସ୍ ୱିଥ୍ ଚେଞ୍ଜିଂ ସିଜନ୍ସ, ତେଣୁ ସେଇ ଅନୁଯାୟୀ ଆମ ଆୟୁର୍ବେଦରେ ପ୍ରେସକ୍ରାଇବ୍ କରାଯାଇଛି।
actually innovation of technology, it has made us little bit arrogant. ता माने आमे कोल्ड स्टोर रखी कि वर्ष सारा कोल्ड स्टोर रखी वर्ष सारा खाद्य खाउछु, शीत दिन खाली कोबी न खाई वर्ष सारा कोबी खाउछु, चिलिका माछ आनिकी आमे कोरापुट रे खाउछु। हाँ आउ तेणु आउ से जो ओल्ड डिक्टम गुड़ाक वैलिड नुहे आउ माने क्लाइमेट दृष्टि हो बा ये कल्चर दृष्टि हो जो सब डिक्टम थिला दे आर नो मोर वैलिड ना कौन कहते श्वेता मैडम?
हाँ बहुत गुटे जिनस दे आर बिकमिंग ऑब्सोलीट, बट आमे हमर सेल्फ प्रिजर्वेशन एठी हमें यूज करिया जेमति हमें कहलो नहीं कि हमें भी कथा होतली सेल्फ प्रिजर्वेशन विषय रे. सो वी हैव टू स्टार्ट doing a little bit of research on our end. मु बहिरे शेयर करी मु ट्राई करची कि which ingredient grows in which season जोटा खाया कथा. So I try to use that in everyday life. माने मु ट्राई करे कि मु फूल कोबी वर्ष सारा न खाई कि ए सीजन रे जेमति खाइबी. कि तार सिंबर गोटे सीजन अच्छे, सिंब है शीत दिनिया परिया मेनली, तो सिंबटा मु शीत दिन रे खाइबी. तो किछिटा जिनस निजको रिसर्च करिकी निजर से लाइन्सटा ड्र करिया पड़िबो, निजे ही से एटा बनैया पड़िबो, काहे सब जिनस सबले अवेलेबल है से टेम्पटिंग भी हे जाए. आमे जानी तो पारुनी कोटा, बहुत लोग जानी पारु नांदी ओ सीजन कोटा होची, एंड इट इज वेरी टेम्पटिंग कि मोर एटा फेवरेट वेजिटेबल, सो इट इज देयर इन द मार्केट, व्हाई आई शुड नॉट गो एंड बाय इट. सो सेटा निज तरफ गोटे सेल्फ रेस्ट्रेंट अवेयरनेस से गोटे बहुत दरकार. तो मु जिनस गुड़ा ये जिनसा मुझे टिके टच करी मो बही उपरे, जो मैंने टिके पढ़िबा, आई होप दे रीड इट विथ एन ओपन माइंड एंड they try to understand that I am trying to enforce something which is good for everyone. I'm not enforcing, I'm just trying to spread awareness about something which is good for everyone.
एठी मु श्वेता तमर पुनी आउथर आई थिंक विल गो बैक टू वन मोर ऑफ आवर कन्वर्सेशंस तमर मोर केबे हेथिबो. लोकल सीजनल संजय आपण जो कहिले, फॉर एग्जांपल मु भारत बाहर रहउची, आउ लोकल और सीजनल आमे जदी एठी माने वर्तमान ओडिसा रे जो जो जिंस मिले, जदी सब जाक केवल सेही जिंस हिसाब रे करबी तो सेटा लोकल सीजनल एठी का हिसाब रे हबनी. तेनु बहुत जिंस आमे ना मॉडिफाई भी कर दो. धन्य एई जगह रे पाखर फार्मर मार्केट, लोकल एथि पई कहूची जे फार्मर्स मार्केट प्राय आख पाख एरिया रो बिलरु जोड़ा का आसिक बिक्री होची, सेगुडा को बेसी किनिया चेष्टा करूछु कि आम भजा किंतु एठिकार परिबा कि इंग्रेडिएंट उदाहरण एठी कोसला साग मो पाखरे नाही, कोलाड ग्रीन जोड़ा कि पाख को बिलरु हेथिबो कोलाड ग्रीन ता हो कि केल हो, सेथिरे हमरो रसुण छिचिकी फुटेकी मुग देकी ना आम साग करि परिबी. माने ओडिसा रो बाहर जो माने रहउचंती से माने सेठिकार लोकल इंग्रेडिएंट नेकी ना भी मझिरे मझिरे करि परिबे, काहे कि ना माने एमपी रिजिडिटी तार भी रहिबार नाही. सो दैट माने टेक्निक टा सेम जिंसडा रहिबो, खाली इंग्रेडिएंट माइट चेंज बिकॉज ऑफ द जियोग्राफिकल रीजन यू आर इन. आउ जोटा श्वेता मेंशन कले कि बहुत दूर जेतेबेले आसे प्रिजर्व हे कि ना रहे परिबा हो कि जा हो, तार न्यूट्रिशनल वैल्यू भी पूरा बहुत कमी जाई थाए. तो आमे जदी माने निज निज अर्बनाइजेशन भी जो हे गलानी चारियाडे भारत रे, आगुर कोन रूरल लाइफ टा टिके बेसी प्रेडोमिनेंट थिला दैन अर्बन लाइफ. तेनु लोकल सीजनल रो अवेलेबिलिटी बेसी भलरे होथिला. एबे अर्बनाइजेशन टा हबा जते भलो at the same time ଏଇ ସବୁ ଜିନିଷର ସିଗ୍ନିଫିକାନ୍ସ ଟା ଟିକେ କମି ବି ଯାଉଛି ଲୋକାଲ ସିଜନାଲ ର କେବଳ ଅର୍ଗାନିକ ର ବ୍ରାଣ୍ଡ ନା ଦେଇକିନା ଆମେ କିଣୁଛେ ବଟ୍ ସେଇ ଅର୍ଗାନିକ ଟା କୋଉଠି ହେଇଛି କୋଉ ପ୍ରୋସେସ ରେ ହେଇଛି କୋଉ ଜାଗାରୁ ଆସିଛି ବି ଡୋଣ୍ଟ नो ଶ୍ଵେତା ଯାହା କହିଲେ ଆମେ ପର୍ସନାଲ ଲାଇଫ ରେ ଯଦି ସେଟାକୁ ଇନକଲକେଟ କରିପାରିବା ଆଟଲିଷ୍ଟ ମ୍ୟାକ୍ସିମମ୍ ଲୋକ ଯଦି କରିପାରିବା ତାହେଲେ ମେ ବି
ପ୍ରୀତା ମ୍ୟାଡାମ ଆମେ ସଞ୍ଜୟ ଆଉ ମୁଁ ଯେତେବେଳେ ପିଲା ଥିଲୁ କ୍ଲାସ ଚତୁର୍ଥ ଶ୍ରେଣୀ ଆମର ଗୋଟେ ପଢା ହଉଥିଲା ପତ୍ରବନ୍ଧୁ ଭାରତର ଗୋଟେ ପିଲା ଗୋଟେ ଆମେରିକାର ଗୋଟେ ପିଲାକୁ ଗୋଟେ ଚିଠିରେ ଲେଖୁଥିବ ଯେ ମୁଁ
ଆଜ୍ଞା
ଶୁଣିଛି ତମ ଦେଶରେ ଶୀତ ଦିନେ ବି କାଳେ ଆଇସ୍କ୍ରିମ ଖାଆନ୍ତି ସଞ୍ଜୟ ମନେ ପଡୁଛି ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ଆମ ପିଲାମାନେ ବର୍ଷ ସାରା ଆଇସ୍କ୍ରିମ ଖାଉଛନ୍ତି ହେଲା ସେଥିରେ ଲେଖିଲା ସିଏ ଯେ ମୁଁ ଶୁଣିଛି ତମ ଦେଶରେ କାଳେ ଅଧା ରୋଷେଇ ହେଇକି ପରିବା ପତ୍ର ମିଳେ ଘରକୁ ଆଣି ଖାଲି ଗରମ ପାଣିରେ ପକେଇଦେଲେ ହେଇଯାଏ ବର୍ତ୍ତମାନ ଆମେ ସେୟା କରୁଛୁ ନା କେତେ ଶୀଘ୍ର ବଦଳିଗଲା
Like,
କଥା କଥାଟା କହିଲେ actually ଭଲ କହିଲେ ମାନେ local and seasonal always means the region it is always in context of the region where you live ଆମେ କହିବା କି ଆମେ ୟୁଏସଏ ରହିକି ଯୋଉଟା ଇଣ୍ଡିଆରେ ଏବେ ସିଜନରେ ଅଛି ଆମେ ଖାଇବା ସେଟା ତ ପସିବଲ ନାହିଁ ନା you cannot ship vegetables then ତାର ଭ୍ୟାଲ୍ୟୁ କଣ ରହିଲା ସୋ ସେଇ ଜାଗାର ଭେଜିଟେବଲ୍ସ କୁ ଆମକୁ ଆମ ନିଜ ଡାଏଟରେ ମାନେ ଇନକ୍ଲୁଡ କରିବାକୁ ପଡିବ ସେଥିରେ ମୁଁ ରହିଥିଲି ହାଇଦ୍ରାବାଦରେ ତ ଆମକୁ ସେଇ ପରିବା ଯୋଉ ଆମର ଶାଗ ସବୁ ମିଳେ ନାହିଁ ସିଜନାଲ ଶାଗ ଯୋଉଟା ଏଇଠି ଓଡ଼ିଶାରେ ମିଳେ ସେଟା ମିଳେ ନାହିଁ ତ ଯୋଉ ସିଜନାଲ ଶାଗ ମୁଁ ପାଏ ବାଙ୍ଗାଲୋରରେ ହାଇଦ୍ରାବାଦରେ ତାଙ୍କର ଯୋଉ ସିଜନାଲ ଶାଗ ତାକୁ ସବୁ ଆଣିକି ଆମର ମେଥଡରେ ରାନ୍ଧେ ଆମର ଯୋଉ ଡିଫରେଣ୍ଟ ମେଥଡ ଅଛି ଘୁରା ଶାଗ ହେଲା କି ବଡି ପକେଇକି କ୍ଷୀର ପକେଇକି କୋଉଟା କାଉ ତାଙ୍କର ଟେଷ୍ଟ ଟା ଭଲ ଲାଗେ ମୁଁ ନିଜେ ଏକ୍ସପେରିମେଣ୍ଟ କରିକି ଜାଣେ so this is the way we you know we carry forward our
ରାଇଟ୍
traditions
ରାଇଟ୍ ରାଇଟ୍
at the same time ଏଠି ଆମେ କେବଳ ଧରନ୍ତୁ ଫେଷ୍ଟିଭାଲ ଡେ ଘରିକା ଅଛି ନା ଯେମିତି କାର୍ତ୍ତିକ ପୂର୍ଣ୍ଣମୀ ଥିଲା କି କଣ ବହୁତ ଦୂରରେ ଗୋଟେ ବାଂଲାଦେଶୀ ଦୋକାନ ଅଛି ଯିଏ ଫ୍ରୋଜେନ ଓଉ ବିକ୍ରି କରେ ମୁଁ ଶୁଣିଲି ଏ ବର୍ଷ ମୁଁ ଆଗରୁ ଜାଣିନଥିଲି ତେଣୁ ଆର ବର୍ଷ ଆଇ ମେକ୍ ସିଓର ଯୋଉମାନେ ଏଠି କାର୍ତ୍ତିକ ପୂର୍ଣ୍ଣିମାରେ ଓଉ ପକେଇ କରିଥିଲେ ମୁଁ କହିଲି କୋଉଠୁ ଆଣିଲ ନା ଏମିତି ସେ 1.5 ଘଣ୍ଟା ଦୂରରେ ଗୋଟେ ବାଂଲାଦେଶୀ ଦୋକାନ ଅଛି ଫ୍ରୋଜେନ ଓଉ ମିଳୁଛି ମୁଁ କହିଲି ତାହେଲେ ନେକ୍ସଟ ଇୟର ମୁଁ ଯାଇକି ଆଣିବି ସୋ ଯେମିତି ଫେଷ୍ଟିଭାଲ ଡେ ଘରିକା ପାଇଁ ଆମେ କଣ କରୁ ମୁଁ ଘରୁ ନାଡି ବଡି ଆମ୍ବୁଲ ବହୁତ ପରିମାଣରେ ନେଇକି ଆସୁ ଆଉ ମୁଁ ଫ୍ରୋଜେନ କରି ରଖେ ସୋ ଦ୍ୟାଟ ବର୍ଷ ସାରା କି 2 ବର୍ଷ 3 ବର୍ଷ ଯେତେ ପର୍ଯ୍ୟନ୍ତ ଓଡିଶା ଯାଉନୁ ନାଡି ବଡି ଆଉ ଆମ୍ବୁଲ ଏଇ ତିନିଟା କୋଉଠି ମିଳେନି ଇଣ୍ଡିଆନ ଷ୍ଟୋରରେ ଆଟଲିଷ୍ଟ ଏଇ ତିନୋଟି ଜିନିଷ ସବୁ ଓଡିଆଙ୍କ ଘରେ ଆପଣ ନାଡି ନ ହଉ ପଛେ ଆମ୍ବୁଲ ବଡି ନିହାତି ପାଇବେ ମୁଁ ନାଡିଟି ବି ଆଣେ କାରଣ ମୁଁ ଭୁବନେଶ୍ୱରରେ ଜନ୍ମ ସେମିତି
କିନ୍ତୁ
ଏଥର ମୁଁ ଓଉ ବି ଟିକେ ନେଇ ଆସିକି ରଖିଦେବି ପରିବା
କିନ୍ତୁ
ମାନେ ଯେତେବେଳେ ଦରକାର ହବ
ଓଡିଶାରେ ସେଟା ସାତ୍ವಿକ ସେଠି ଆମେରିକାରେ ପହଞ୍ଚିଲା ବେଳକୁ ସେଟା ତାମସିକ ହେଇଯାଉଛି ସେଟା ନୁହେଁ
କି ତାମସିକ ହେଇଯାଉଛି
ନାଇଁ ଆମର ଖାଦ୍ୟର ମୁଁ ଯାହା ଜାଣିଛି ଖାଦ୍ୟଟା ଯଦି ଆମେ ପ୍ରିଜର୍ଭ କରିଦେବା ନା ଇଟ୍ ବିକମ୍ସ
ଆଜ୍ଞା
ତାମସିକ ସାତ୍ବିକ
ଆଉ
ଫୁଡ
କଣ
ବିକମ୍ସ
କରିବା
ନାଇଁ
ସେଇଟା
ନାଇଁ
କହିଲେ
I'm not exactly
preserved foods are not ମାନେ ହଁ ତାମସିକରେ ଯିବନି preserved foods କୁ ସାତ୍विକରେ actually ଆପଣ ଦେଖିବେ ଆୟୁର୍ବେଦରେ ସାତ୍विକ ଫୁଡ ମାନେ it should be living ମାନେ ଯେତେ ସତେଜ ଥିବ ଜିନିଷଟା ସେତେ ସାତ୍विକ ସେ it should get the have the life force କିନ୍ତୁ ଆମେ ପ୍ରିଜର୍ଭେସନ ଟେକ୍ନିକ ସବୁବେଳେ ରଖିଛୁ କାହିଁକି ନା ସବୁବେଳେ ସବୁ ଜିନିଷ ଆଭେଲେବଲ ନଥାଏ ବହୁତ ଲିନ୍ ପିରିୟଡ ଥାଏ ଯେତେବେଳେ ଖାଇବା ପାଇଁ ମିଳେ ନାହିଁ ଲୋକଙ୍କୁ ସୋ ପ୍ରିଜର୍ଭେସନ ଟେକ୍ନିକ୍ସ ଆର୍ ଇମ୍ପର୍ଟାଣ୍ଟ ଏ ଯୋଉ ଆମର ଆମ୍ବୁଲ ହେଲା କି ବଡି ନାଡି ହେଲା ଏଇ ଜିନିଷ ଗୁଡା ଆମ ପ୍ରିଜର୍ଭ ଫୁଡ୍ସ ଏଗୁଡା ଅଛି ମାନେ ମୁଁ ଗୋଟେ ସେକ୍ସନ ଲେଖିଛି ମୋ ବହିରେ ୟା ଉପରେ ସୋ ଦେ ହାଭ୍ ଅଲୱେଜ ବିନ୍ ଅ ପାର୍ଟ ଅଫ ଆୱାର କଲଚର ମାନେ ଲୋକ ଏଟଲିଷ୍ଟ ଭୋକରେ ତ ରହିବନି there should be some food that should be the backup better backup plan ଆମର
of course अरे ମୁଁ just ଖାଲି ଏମିତି matter of fact କହିଲି
हाँ हाँ सर बुझिले मु बट हाँ से प्रिजर्व फूड्स आर लाइक इक्वली इम्पोर्टेंट हम ओडिसा रे लोक टिके फ्रेश खाया पसंद करंती तो प्राय फ्रेश फूड्स एवरीवन ट्राइज यू नो
ନାଇଁ
ते परियाटा सखळ जाय पानी में
ଆମେ କଣ ଘରେ ଫ୍ରିଜ ରଖି खाऊनु କି ଆମେ ବି ତ
हाँ
ଘରେ
हाँ
ଖାଉଛୁ
सर
ନା
हाँ रखी खाउछु किंतु प्रिजर्वेशन इज आल्सो अ पार्ट मुआ जेंती हैला पड़ी की माने मुआ बने के मासी रखी की खाइलु आरिसा पिठा बने की मासी रखी के खाइलु so yes preserved foods are like they're a part of our food culture
ମ୍ୟାଡାମ ଶୁଖୁଆ ଟା ବି ପ୍ରିଜର୍ଭ ଫୁଡ ବୋଧେ ଶୁଖୁଆ
हाँ हाँ सुखा भी प्रिजर्व फूड रे जीवो सर
ଆଚ୍ଛା 9ଟା 11 ହେଲାଣି ଇଏ
हाँ
ଆମେ କଣ ଆଜି ସାରିବା ଏଣ୍ଡ କରିବା
ଆଜ୍ଞା ହଁ
ପ୍ରୀତା
ଆଜ୍ଞା
ମ୍ୟାଡାମ
ମୁଁ
yes sir
ପ୍ରୀତା
ଠିକ
ମ୍ୟାଡାମ
ଅଛି
ଆପଣଙ୍କର
ଆଜ୍ଞା ଆଜ୍ଞା ମୁଁ କହୁଛି So Sunil sir mate aji vote of thanks कहया ପାଇଁ କହିଛନ୍ତି एटा मोर बहुत बड़ा honor और privilege Shweta is one of the persons मु social media रे जते बेले first किछि देखिया पढ़िबा चाहिली Shweta is one of the first accounts that caught my eye at the way she has put everything out there the beautiful words say like mu to you are a wordsmith इतने सुंदर लेखा इतने सुंदर thoughts which she translates into words and जोड़ा दरकार the need of the hour type ର ଜିନିଷ and I would say Shweta scientifically लिखंती at the same time she puts a lot of emotion so she's a scientist as well as a like science and reality of life both she balances and fuses and presents so beautifully in her works so her book had been a long time we were all waiting for so I'm still waiting for to get my copy here because I'm outside India but I'll be getting it soon and I would love to read that and I today whatever Sweta has discussed like each and every point I wish that more and more people hear about it and even read her book and try to inculcate it in our own lives like we have to be the examples that our children and beyond that they live like if we don't lead by example then they won't like if we become lax ame jodi gote easy way out kadiba माने आमको देखि कि आम पिल्ला माने कि आम तापर जनरेशन भी आमको देखि कि सिखिबे like whatever I have learned I have seen from my parents and my you know that generation of people or my grandparents सेमती आमको निजे first we have to inculcate all that which Shweta already does in her life and so thank you so much for agreeing to be a part of this you know this beautiful endeavor that Sunil and Sanjay sir has both they have started and every week we get a lot of interesting and enlightening conversations today you gave us a very enlightening you know discussion about our food habits and the food culture of Odisha so thank you so much Shweta thank you everyone for joining
Thank you. Namaskar.
Thank you everyone.
Dhanyavad.